Chapter 151. Gwen looked at the mask and round fan that Rog put aside, and silently looked at Rog for a while. Then she asked, "Can you fly?" "No." Rog replied directly. "But when you fight aliens you can fly." Gwen pointed to the round fan on the side and continued to ask. "It's just the round fan that can fly, I just stepped on it, I can't fly." Although the development of things was somewhat different from what he expected, he still explained patiently. "Don't worry, haste makes waste. No, why do I want to eat hot tofu?" "Then can you fly once for me to see?" Gwen seems to be particularly interested in the issue of flying. Here. Although there are only 2 of them in the restaurant, it is obviously not a good place to fly. Go outside. Although Rog doesn't know what Gwen wants to do, he doesn't mind meeting Gwen's small request. Outside the restaurant is a busy street, which is not a suitable place to fly, so Rog took Gwen directly to the rooftop of the restaurant. "How do you know you can come up here? Why are there no waiters in the restaurant?" After following Rog to the roof, Gwen asked in confusion. "I bought this building and the restaurant is mine. I let them get off work early." After that, Rog threw the round fan in his hand out. Under his control, the round fan that was thrown out drew a beautiful arc in the air and then flew back to him. "Do you want to experience it?" Roger went straight to the top of the circular fan, then turned his head and asked Gwen. Gwen came to the round fan excitedly. Before she could turn around she was picked up by Rog. "If you stand like this it's easy to fall." After that, Rog directly controlled the round fan to fly out. In order to take care of Gwen's feelings, Rog did not let the round fan show the extreme flying speed, but like a surfboard in the sea, he kept passing from the roofs of the buildings. Although Rog can't swing around the buildings like Spider-Man, he can do a more exciting flying experience. Since the round fan started flying, Gwen involuntarily hugged Rog's neck, nervous like a person who is afraid of heights sitting on the most exciting vertical roller coaster. "Do you want to experience something more exciting?" After flying for a few minutes between the buildings, Rog asked Gwen. At this time, although Gwen didn't answer Rog, she nodded firmly. Since Gwen wants to play, then play with her once. The round fan began to fly high, and the buildings in New York began to shrink rapidly. At the same time, Roger wrapped himself and Gwen with his chakra coat. To him, this height did not affect him in any way. But Gwen is different, she is just an ordinary person. After flying to a height of thousands of meters, the round fan stopped climbing and suspended in the air. Just as Gwen was about to ask Rog, Rog suddenly jumped forward and left the round fan directly. Under the influence of gravity, Rog and Gwen began to fall rapidly in a free-falling state. Along with them falling together, Gwen screamed at an alarming frequency. "Ah!" The real extreme bungee jumping only needs to be experienced once and it will be unforgettable. The small New York began to grow rapidly, and the buildings that were originally just a bright spot became clearer and clearer. Looking at the ground getting closer and closer, Gwen's hands also hugged Rog's neck harder. 500 meters, 300 meters, 100 meters, 50 meters. Just after Gwen closed her eyes nervously, the strong sense of weightlessness suddenly disappeared. "You can open your eyes now." After hearing Rog's voice, Gwen opened her eyes and looked around in confusion. When they were about to fall to the ground, Rog's flying thunder god teleported to the top of a building with a flying Thor technique, safely ending this high-altitude extreme bungee jumping trip. "Do you superheroes usually play so crazily?" After being put down by Rog, Gwen patted her chest with lingering fear. Bungee jumping is already a thrilling thing, let alone this kind of extreme bungee jumping with no protective measures. "It's okay, what we usually do may be a little more thrilling than this. I've just experienced it and I've played with it, so it's time to get to the point. In fact, I asked you out tonight, in addition to telling you my true identity, there's another thing." After that, Rog took out the syringe that was only the size of a finger. What's inside is a strengthening serum, and it's a strengthening serum specially configured for you. After the injection you will have strength, speed, and agility beyond ordinary people, and you will have some super perceptive abilities that you can't imagine. Simply put, after the injection you will also become a superhero. Rog raised the syringe in his hand and said solemnly, "After the injection I can become a superhero?" "Yes." As soon as Rog finished speaking, Gwen raised her right hand and wanted to take the syringe in his hand. "Wait a minute, there are some things I need to tell you in advance. This serum is specially made for you, so it has not been subjected to any human experiments. You have also interned at Oscorp for a while, so you should understand what this means. Moreover, once you become a superhero, it will mean that you will say goodbye to the life of ordinary people. You may think that becoming a superhero is a particularly cool thing now, but the truth may be completely different from what you think. I was going to secretly inject you, but I still think it should be up to you to make this decision. After making sure that Gwen had completely understood, Rog handed her the syringe in his hand that could change Gwen's fate. Why did you make such a strengthening serum for me? Or why do you want me to be a superhero? After taking the syringe from Rog, Gwen looked up at Rog and asked very seriously. Because I need you. I need a superhero, Gwen. Rog also replied very seriously. You need me? Yes. I need you. After hearing Rog's affirmative answer, a smile appeared on Gwen's face. Then she directly inserted the syringe into her left arm. I believe you. Rog thought that Gwen would think about it for a while before making a decision, but Gwen gave him a direct answer with practical actions. Chapter 152. You trust me so much? It has to be said that Gwen's decisiveness scared Rog a little. Were all young girls these days so bold and daring? Times have really changed. Intuition. I believe you won't harm me. And if you don't want me to know with your ability, you can do it without me knowing. You respect my choice, so I believe in you. After speaking, Gwen threw away the syringe that had been used, with an aura of everything under her control. Rog did not speak but sighed slightly helplessly and then said, In the future, don't trust others so easily. For example, I am not the kind of superhero you imagine. Strictly speaking, I am not even a hero, let alone the kind of superhero who will save the world. I believe in my intuition. For Rog's reminder, Gwen didn't seem to take it to heart at all, and there was some excitement in her tone. Can this serum really make me a superhero? I don't seem to feel it at all. Just when Gwen began to doubt whether the injected serum was effective, a feeling of exhaustion that seemed to come from the depths of her soul suddenly came up. I take back that sentence just now. Before she finished speaking, Gwen fell forward as if she had lost all her strength and fell into Rog's arms. I'll be fine after a nap. This was the last sentence Gwen heard before she lost consciousness. Looking at Gwen, who had completely fainted in his arms, Rog began to struggle. Should I send her home? Although he knew the specific address of Gwen's house, if he sent the unconscious Gwen directly home, Gwen's parents might have some inexplicable ideas. So for the sake of safety and to avoid some unnecessary trouble, he decided to take Gwen home, back to his home. Rog guaranteed with his own personality that this was really just to avoid unnecessary trouble in the future. After sensing the flying Thor at home, Rog and Gwen disappeared directly from the rooftop. After bringing the unconscious Gwen back to his home, Rog carried Gwen directly to his bedroom. Then he left Gwen alone in the master bedroom. A little white dragon in the waves who was good at galloping on horseback would not take advantage of others when they were in danger. This was a matter of principle. After confirming that Gavin was only unconscious because of the effect of the serum, Rog went to his study and began to design a battle suit for Gavin. He said that he was designing the battle suit, but in fact he was just redrawing the battle suit that already existed in his mind. The battle suit was mainly white and black. The upper body was mostly white while the lower body was black. The elbows and the inside of the arms were a classic red spider web design. The headgear was also mainly pure white, but the outline of the eye sockets had been changed to red stripes. In addition to the color being different from the other spider suits, this spider suit belonging to Gavin also had a hood. The outer layer of the hat was also white, while the inner layer was in the form of a red spider web. After drawing the sketches of the battle suit and noting the body's data, Rog sent the designs to Erica and asked her to make as many arrangements as possible. After doing all this, Rog used chakra perception to sense Gwen's current life energy state, and then came to the guest room. The master bedroom was given to Gwen, so of course he could only sleep in the guest room. The night was silent. Early the next morning before Gwen got up, Rog specially prepared a large breakfast. If he remembered correctly, after being bitten by the mutant spider, Peter Parker showed a behavior of eating a lot to replenish his energy. It's better to be prepared than not to be prepared. After preparing breakfast, Rog did not go to the master bedroom to wake Gwen up, but came to the living room and played Berserker's Creed that he had not yet cleared. He just used chakra perception to sense Gwen's state and found that Gwen had gotten up and was now washing in the bathroom. Just after he completed an assassination mission, he heard footsteps coming from the side. Following the sound of footsteps, he turned his head and saw a scene that made his heart beat faster even though he had been on the battlefield for a long time. After washing up, Gwen came to the living room, but at this time she was not wearing yesterday's clothes but Rog's white shirt. The shirt that was just right for Rog was obviously much looser and bigger on Gwen, and it was directly worn with the effect of disappearing under the shirt. Long blonde hair with water droplets, a loose white shirt, slender and straight legs. Rog felt that his rationality seemed to have begun to show signs of turning into a beast. He looked at Gwen standing aside, looked at the game controller in his hand, and then turned to look at Gwen. For a man, this choice should not be difficult to make. Breakfast is on the table, I will finish the level in front of me first. After that, Rog once again put his eyes on the screen in front of him, and his fingers pressed frantically on the game controller. After hearing Rog's words, Gwen was stunned for a moment. After seeing that Rog really put all his attention on the screen, she suddenly became angry. Not long after waking up, Gwen guessed that this should be Rog's home. After discovering this, she was a little happy. However, after finding that she was still wearing yesterday's clothes, her good mood disappeared in an instant. After washing up, he changed into a new set of clothes, only to receive such a reply from Rog. "You, humph." Gwen snorted with dissatisfaction, then turned and walked towards the bedroom. Breakfast? Who would be in the mood to eat breakfast now? Gwen, who turned and walked towards the bedroom, did not find that Rog, who had always rejected the game, had silently opened Sharingan at this time. The process of the plot was directly skipped. The enemies were all killed. After opening Sharingan, Rog showed a far better game level than usual. When the last target character was killed, he directly teleported to the bedroom with the Flying Thunder God. It was not until his figure completely disappeared that the game controller fell to the floor. More than an hour later, Rog, who had changed his clothes, and Gwen appeared in the dining room and ate the breakfast that should have been finished more than an hour ago. "Do I need to eat so much in the future?" Gwen frowned and asked. She found that her appetite at this time had seriously exceeded her usual level. But even so, she still didn't feel full. "No. It's just for a few days and it will return to the original situation later." After getting a positive answer from Rog, Gwen slightly put down the fear of becoming fat and enjoyed the breakfast carefully prepared by Rog. Chapter 153. Wait, isn't there something wrong? After a few minutes, Rog realized that there seemed to be something wrong with the scene just now. It should be that she hasn't galloped for a long time, so her reaction was a little slow. But fortunately, Gwen didn't seem to notice this. After breakfast, Rog sent the Flying Thunder God to his office and introduced Gwen to Sky and Erica. Erica, on the other hand, didn't react. She simply looked at Gwen curiously. Sky, on the other hand, showed an "I knew it" look. Rog chose to ignore Sky's malicious smile. "She's just a kid, don't worry about her." Later, Rog Flying Thunder God again and took Gwen to the warehouse where Dr. Connor's laboratory was located. "Gwen? Why are you here?" Dr. Connors is no stranger to Gwen. When Gwen was an intern at Oscorp, she interned in his laboratory. Dr. Connors? After seeing Dr. Connors, Gwen also showed a shocked look. Several months ago, Oscorp announced that Dr. Connors died unexpectedly because of an experimental accident. It was because of this that Gwen ended her internship at Oscorp ahead of schedule. That's a bit complicated to explain. I'll tell you slowly later. The serum you injected yesterday was developed by Dr. Connors. Now is not a good time to explain the grievances between Dr. Connors and Oscorp, so Rog interrupted their conversation in time and directly ended the topic that would be long once they talked about it. In addition to Dr. Connors, Frank the Punisher and Bronsky the Abomination were also in the warehouse at this time. After introducing the Punisher and the Abomination, Rog took Gwen to a building near her home. "You haven't been back all night. Go back and say you're safe. I'll come back to you in the evening." After saying goodbye to Gwen, Rog once again teleported to Dr. Connor's laboratory. Taking Gwen to the company and coming to this warehouse was just to let Gwen officially enter his life circle. As for the rest, there would be time to slowly introduce it to Gavin in the future. After returning to the laboratory, Rog went directly to Dr. Connors and went straight to the point. "First of all, thank you for your hard work during this period of time. Later, I will ask Frank to give you a Swiss bank note as my small gift to you." Now that Gwen has injected the spider serum, there is no need to continue to limit Dr. Connors here. From a personal point of view, he was very grateful for the doctor's efforts during this period of time. So he intended to give freedom back to Dr. Connors. "Doctor, if you're willing, you can leave right away. But before you leave, I will leave a curse mark on your tongue. This curse seal won't cause you any harm, it's just to ensure that you won't leak out any secrets related to me. For example, the formula for the spider serum, and the identity of Gavin and me." After saying that, Rog paused for a few seconds before continuing. "Normally, I shouldn't threaten you at this time, but you should also understand the importance of these secrets. The best way to make someone keep a secret was to send that person to meet the Grim Reaper. Because only dead people will never leak secrets. But to Dr. Connors, who had helped him, Roger could not do such a thing as burning the bridge after crossing the river. In any case, Dr. Connors helped him complete a small dream, so if it wasn't necessary he would never do that. Since he can't kill Dr. Connors, he can only use other ways to ensure that Dr. Connors doesn't leak secrets. And at this time, it's time for the system to perform. There are all kinds of fancy ninjutsu in the system, and one of them is called the Seal of Tongue Calamity Isolation Seal, which is very suitable for his current needs. The Seal of Tongue Calamity Root is a special seal used by Konoha Pot King Danzo to bind his subordinates. By engraving the curse seal on the target's tongue, the target can't say any secrets related to himself. Once there is such an idea or plan to do so, the target will be paralyzed, unable to speak and unable to move. Actually, I don't intend to leave here. If you allow me, I want to study the abomination Bronsky. I can be a member of your team, as long as you are willing to cooperate with my research on the abomination. Rog thought that Dr. Connors would refuse, but he didn't expect that Dr. Connors would be willing to stay on his own initiative. And the reason for staying is the abomination. If I remember correctly, they just met some time ago, right? Did something happen between them? Or is it because of the attraction of the same color? The green-skinned abomination and the green-skinned Dr. Lizard, it seems that they really may be attracted to each other. While waiting for Rog's consent, Dr. Connors looked at the abomination in the corner of the warehouse, and then stretched out his long tongue with obvious lizard characteristics and licked his lips. After witnessing Dr. Connors' inadvertent move, Rog thought of a mixed-gender character with the same fanatical scientific research spirit. Oh, okay. If you need, I can let the abomination cooperate with your experiment. But the premise of the experiment is that you can't threaten the safety of the abomination's life, nor can you cause serious psychological trauma to him. He has been stimulated before, so his psychological endurance may be a little fragile. Rog agreed to Dr. Connors' request, and the addition of Dr. Connors can also make up for the team's technical disadvantage. As for the abomination, Rog doesn't think he will have any opinions about it. After dealing with the issue of Dr. Connors' departure, he returned to his office with the Flying Thunder God and thought about what to do next. Although Gwen has been injected with spider serum, there is still a long way to go before she becomes a real Spider-Gwen, so she still needs to be trained a little. But before that, he had to prepare all the equipment that Gavin needed. For example, battle suits, cobweb launchers, etc. The battle suits have been handed over to Erica and should be done soon. The cobweb launcher is a little more troublesome because the launcher needs to be remade. As for the sticky solution in the launcher, Oscorp just happens to have the right one. It seems that someone will have to go to Oscorp again. The last time it was the Abomination who went to get the instrument, so this time it will be the Punisher. Rog feels that he likes Oscorp more and more. Chapter 154. The matter of the spider web mucus is easier to solve, but for the launcher you need to find a professional. Although Dr. Connors has the title of a doctor, he is only good in the field of biotechnology. Spider web launcher, a typical technological product, is obviously not within his research scope. Fortunately, Rog happens to know a friend who is very good in the field of mechanical technology. If there are difficulties, look for Tani. As long as it is something related to mechanical technology, looking for Tani is the right thing to do. After dialing Tani's phone and explaining the purpose of the call, Tani simply agreed. For Tani, the difficulty of creating a spider web launcher is similar to that of a toy in a middle school student's science and technology handicraft class. Although Tani agreed to Rog's request, he also made a small request to Rog. If there is a chance, he would like to see Gwen. Tani has known Rog for a long time, but he has never seen Rog so concerned about a girl. The nature of curiosity and gossip is not limited to girls. For Tani's small request, Rog had no reason to refuse and agreed directly. Anyway, Tani will see Gwen sooner or later, especially after Gwen really becomes a spider woman. In the afternoon, Erica came to Rog's office with a cardboard box. Inside the cardboard box was the spider suit that Rog specifically asked for last night. This is the only benefit left in the capitalist society. As long as you are willing to spend money, efficiency is not a problem at all. Not to mention just a piece of clothing, even if you want the main battle tank of the UA military, they will get it in the shortest time and then pack it up and send it to your home. The commissions for these days will be postponed for a week. If someone disagrees, cancel his order directly. After a few months of continuous efforts, Konoha Private Military Company has thoroughly established a foothold in this industry and has also made a lot of reputation. With the increase of fame, more and more customers have come to commission. But up until now, only Rog, the Punisher, and the Abomination had carried out the mission. The Punisher will go to Oscorp in the next few days, and the Abomination will cooperate with Dr. Connors to do some experiments. As for Rog himself, he had to complete Gavin's training as soon as possible. Therefore, for the next week, the wooden dummy private military company would be in a situation where there would be no combatants. But even so, Rog had no plans to expand the company. What he wants is an elite organization like the Akatsuki, not the existence of a large number of people like the hidden villages. When the night came, Rog and Gavin appeared together in a Western restaurant that had just opened a few months ago, but had already become quite famous. After entering the restaurant, Gavin found that there were no guests here, just like the Chinese restaurant last night. "Is this also your restaurant?" Gavin asked thoughtfully. "Yes. I don't like to eat in restaurants that are too noisy, so I opened my own restaurant." Rog has several restaurants like tonight's Western restaurant, each of which focuses on a different category. For example, tonight's restaurant is dominated by classic French dishes. Is every superhero rich, such as Iron Man Tony Stark? Gavin changed the subject and continued to ask. No. In fact, having no money is a common phenomenon among superheroes. Like Tony, he's a different kind. That being said, if superheroes want to make money, it's still easy. For example, the hero dolls and figurines that sold like crazy some time ago. Whether it's licensing or endorsement, as long as superheroes want to make money, a lot of companies will contact them in the first place. However, these superheroes don't seem to have a high desire for money. There are very few people like Rog who have always been eager for money. Be a common man, greedy for money, lustful and righteous. This is the state of life that Rog wants. From the current point of view, he feels that he is doing quite well, at least he has not deviated too far from this life trajectory. When Gavin's delicate face became a little red because of the red wine, Rog ended the good French dinner and took her back to his home. Then he took Gavin to his custom-made training room. This training room is not big, only 70 or 80 square meters. Although the area is not large, it is still very suitable for initial training. Change into this suit. After handing the black and white spider suit to Gavin, Rog returned to his room and changed into a comfortable sportswear. When he came to the training room again, he saw Gavin, who had changed into the spider suit. Except for not wearing a hood, Gavin is now perfectly in line with his imagination. This is Spider Gavin. After calming down a little, Rog came to Gavin and said seriously, "Although you have been injected with the spider serum, you have not fully adapted to the power of the serum and you have no combat experience. So, before you go out to save others, I will do some basic training for you." Good. Gavin didn't say anything and directly agreed. Growing up in a police family, she has a chivalrous heart since she was a child. If it weren't for her father's strict opposition, she would even become a righteous policeman like her father in the future. After watching various fighting videos for more than 10 or 20 minutes with Gavin in the training room, Rog said to Gavin, "Now let's start the formal training." As soon as the voice fell, Rog took the lead in launching an attack. Although Gavin has no combat experience, the extraordinary physique and reaction given by the spider serum still made her instinctively resist. Rog has no intention of teaching Gavin fighting techniques. With the spider serum, Gavin doesn't need to learn those things. She just needs to be familiar with her current strength. Letting her watch the fighting videos was just to let her have a rough understanding of what close combat was all about. Attack, block, counterattack. As time went by, Gavin's movements became more and more agile, and the speed of her attacks became faster and faster. Under Rog's intentional control, Gavin quickly adapted to the extraordinary power brought by the spider serum and began to have the momentum of a superhero. But there is one thing he can't control. In order not to hurt Gavin, he didn't use any ninjutsu or weapons. Even chakra is not used too much. But this kind of close combat fighting is destined to have a lot of intimate physical contact between them, especially when both of them had drunk red wine. As a result, the atmosphere of the battle began to subtly change. The place of the battle gradually evolved from the training room to Rog's bedroom. This night is destined to be a restless night. Chapter 155. Happy days always pass very quickly. It has been almost a week since Rog started training Gavin. In this week, Gavin has changed from a person with no combat experience to a person who can fight with Rog. Of course, the premise of all this is that Rog does not use ninjutsu and genjutsu. Anyway, after this week's personal guidance, Gavin has met all the prerequisites to become a superhero. In general, everything is similar to Rog's plan, except for the cobweb launcher he asked Tani to make. A week ago, he asked Tani to make a pair of cobweb launchers suitable for Gavin, and he made some small suggestions about the cobweb launcher. Then he received a pair of cobweb launchers that seriously exceeded his expectations. The cobweb launcher made by Tani is bracelet-shaped as a hole, with an interface to change the cobweb mucus at any time, and a variety of cobweb launch modes are set up. Rog only wanted an ordinary, pure cobweb launcher. But Tani obviously didn't take his suggestion to heart. So he received a cobweb launcher with a variety of cobweb launch modes built in. In addition to the conventional cobweb launch, this pair of cobweb launchers also have rapid fire, electric shock cobweb, bouncing cobweb, separating cobweb, cobweb grenades, and a series of launch modes that he hasn't figured out yet. Regardless of whether these cobweb launch modes are useful or not, it's always right to install them first. This cobweb launcher, which is obviously from the mind of a boy in science and engineering, made him think of the spider suit that Tani designed for Spider-Man in the future. The cobweb launcher was built by Tani, and the cobweb mucus was built by Dr. Connors. To be precise, it should be improved by Dr. Connors on the basis of the viscous solution invented by Oscorp. After testing, the cobweb solution improved by Dr. Connors has a super high tensile resistance, and its load-bearing performance is also very good. Even the existence of Abomination, which is amazing, can swing around the building through the cobweb without worrying about the cobweb breaking. There were still a few hours before night fell, but Gavin was already eager to try. If it weren't for Rog's insistence that she only set off at night, she wouldn't have been able to hold back her excitement and would have started her first righteous patrol. Gavin waited excitedly for the night to come, while Rog browsed the latest news of Oscorp in his study. He didn't know if Oscorp was in a serious state of reverse recently. A few days ago the Punishers visited Oscorp, and 2 days ago, they experienced a serious violent invasion. And according to Oscorp's announcement, the violent invasion 2 days ago was a premeditated vicious invasion. The violent invaders also stole several combat armor prototypes that Oscorp was developing. However, Oscorp did not release the stolen prototype data, not even the least pictures were released. Since the official debut of Tani's Iron Man armor, combat armor has become the research and development goal of many large groups. Although Oscorp's main focus is in the field of biotechnology, it does not mean that they are ignorant of the field of mechanical technology. With Oscorp's financial resources and research and development level, it is not difficult to develop several combat armor. Rog was not interested in what armor Oscorp lost. He just didn't want these armors to have any impact on Gavin's novice mission. After thinking about it for a few minutes, he decided that it was better to be steady. After nightfall, Spider Gavin set off. But what Gavin didn't find was that not long after she set off, a shadow clone followed her silently. After all, Gavin is still a newcomer, although she has enough power to protect herself and can easily deal with those conventional criminals. But the problem is that this is New York. In this city, anything can happen. When Gavin started her first superhero action, Rog also began to attack the last few levels of Berserker's Creed. Time passed little by little, and just when Rog thought that Gavin's action tonight would draw a perfect end, he suddenly received feedback that the shadow clone was lifted. It's really what you're afraid of. After sensing the Flying Thor technique on the spider web launcher, Rog directly left the living room with the Flying Thunder God and teleported to Gavin's side. As soon as the teleportation ended, he saw a scene like a battlefield and Gavin, who was breathing rapidly. At this time, Gavin was standing on the top of a building looking down at the street below. Following Gavin's gaze, you can see a 3 or 4 meter tall steel creature. To be precise, it's a steel rhinoceros with machine guns and missile launchers hanging on its body. At first sight of this guy, Rog recognized his identity. Rhinoceros Alexei Sisevich. I'm a rhinoceros, I said I would come back. After using the machine guns on the rhinoceros armor to penetrate 5 or 6 police cars in front of him, Alexei took the initiative to open the armor on his head and shouted excitedly at the police opposite him. Relying on the powerful firepower of the armor, Alexei forced the New York police officers to retreat. Behind Alexei, there were 7 or 8 punks who were also wearing rhinoceros headgear. These punks kept going in and out of the bank next to them, throwing bags of US dollars into the heavy trucks that had been prepared. Boom. 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 Alexei, wearing the rhinoceros armor, blocked all the police alone, and the small missiles fired by the armor directly turned the police cars that came to support into fireballs. Ha ha ha, New Yorkers, fear, this is the power of the rhinoceros. After saying that, Alexei once again started shooting like a madman. Da-da-da-da-da-da. You did a good enough job tonight, leave the guys below to me. As soon as the voice fell, Rog summoned the 3 Tomo mask and the Kusanagi sword. Then he jumped directly from the top of the building. You dare to hit my woman, you're really tired of living. To some extent, Rog is a very protective person. And protective means that he will give extremely cruel retribution to those who hurt the people he cares about. Under the influence of gravity, Rog came in front of Rhinoceros Alexei like a meteorite falling from the sky. Then, under the gaze of everyone around, he directly cut off the right arm of the rhinoceros armor. Lightning release, Thousand Birds Blade. Chapter 156. In the blink of an eye, the right arm of the rhino armor, who had just been arrogant, was immediately cut off. It wasn't until the rhinoceros armor's thick metal right arm fell to the ground with a dull thud that everyone finally realized what had happened. A white mask with 3 tomo and a katana wrapped in electric current. He is the masked man. The masked man of the Avengers. Although strictly speaking, Rog is not a member of the Avengers. But in people's hearts, he is a member of the Avengers. Although this misunderstanding has been deeply rooted in people's hearts, Rog and the Avengers have no intention of explaining. Misunderstanding is misunderstanding anyway, it's not a bad thing. How dare you lay your hands on my woman? Rog is very angry now, very angry. He couldn't bear to hit Gwen too hard during training, but this damned rhinoceros man injured Gwen during her first operation. Although Gwen was not hit by bullets and missiles, he clearly saw the scene of the rhino man hitting Gwen through the feedback of the shadow clone. Your woman? Alexei's IQ is not high, otherwise he would not have taken his men to rob a bank not long after he got the rhino armor. So he couldn't react for a while. Who was the woman Rog was talking about? Alexei didn't answer Rog, or rather he couldn't remember who Rog was talking about. Even a few minutes ago he had just hit Gwen and he didn't think of this. Alexei stood there in a daze, but Rog didn't intend to be in a daze with him. He raised his katana and cut off the other arm of the rhino armor. Clang. When the other metal arm was cut off, Alexei finally remembered something. You're talking about that woman, the woman who jumps around like a spider. Alexei said loudly, and then Roger raised his hand and slashed down again. This time Rog cut the left leg of the rhino armor. Bang. Without the support of its left leg, the gigantic rhinoceros armor fell backwards without any suspense, coming into close contact with the ground. The rhino armor developed by Oscorp looked very powerful, but in fact, it was not even comparable to Obadiah's Ironmonger. Not to mention Tani's Iron Man armor. Although Ironmonger was not very strong, Ironmonger could at least fly, and it used the arc reactor as a power source. From a technical perspective, the rhino armor is at least several levels behind Tani's Iron Man armor. The difference was even greater than the difference between an ordinary production car and an F1 racing car. Oh, looks like you've remembered. After saying that, Rog cut off the horn of the steel rhinoceros that was half the height of a man. Alexei tried his best to control the rhinoceros armor, trying to stand up again or use the armor's weapons to repel Rog. However, Rog did not give him the chance to do so. The Kusanagi sword entwined with lightning constantly slashed across the rhinoceros armor, destroying the weapons attached to the rhinoceros armor one by one. Later, under the watchful eyes of the people and the live news camera, Rog stepped onto the rhinoceros armor that was lying on its back. If you just robbed a bank, I would have beaten you up at most and then handed you over to the New York police. But you did something that I can't forgive, so. Before he finished speaking, Rog raised the Kusanagi sword in his hand and then inserted it straight down. The size of the rhinoceros armor is far larger than that of a normal person, which means that the controller inside will be perfectly wrapped inside the armor. Although it is impossible to see the inside of the armor, it is easy to guess where Alexei's limbs are in the armor by inferring from the position of Alexei's head. This sword strike is because you sent her flying. The Kusanagi sword entwined with lightning pierced Alexei's left shoulder with great precision. A strong tingling and severe numbness caused by the electric current instantly spread throughout his body, and at the same time he completely lost the ability to move his left arm. This sword is because you put me in a bad mood. After pulling out the Kusanagi sword that pierced Alexei's left shoulder, Rog used the same method to pierce his right shoulder. Even if Alexei was a felon who returned to prison as if he was going home, after experiencing the pain twice in a row, he couldn't help but scream. It wasn't until this time that Alexei's companions finally reacted. They took out their weapons and aimed at Rog, who was standing on the rhinoceros armor. For these gangsters who didn't even have a name, Rog didn't even have the interest to kill them. When these gangsters pointed their guns at Rog, they saw a pair of blood-red eyes with 3 tomo. Sharingan Genjutsu. Just for a moment, these gangsters seemed to have suffered indescribable severe pain. One by one, they held their heads and then made tragic cries of pain. Don't expect your companions to come and save you, they don't care about you now. After that, Rog pulled out the Kusanagi sword that pierced Alexei's right shoulder and then pointed the tip of the sword at Alexei's forehead. "No, you can't kill me. Oscorp asked me to do it, you can't kill me." Looking at the Kusanagi sword that was only a dozen centimeters away from him, Alexei said quickly, "Oscorp?" Alexei's plea for mercy succeeded in winning him a chance of survival, and it also made Rog think of a less humane way to test weapons. Actual combat test. For weapon developers, there is an embarrassing problem that they don't want to face, but they have to face it. That is, what kind of performance will the developed weapons show in a real battlefield environment? Generally speaking, there are only two solutions to this problem. The first is to use complex experiments to simulate all the bad situations that may be encountered on the battlefield, so as to test the performance of weapons in these extreme environments. This method is much more humane and relatively scientific, and it is the method used by most weapon developers at present. However, no matter how complex and scientific the simulated environment is, it can never replace the real battlefield. And the high cost of testing is not something that every weapon developer is willing to bear. Therefore, there is a second test method, actual combat test. The developed weapons are provided to small mercenaries or some special people for free or at a low price, so that they can conduct real combat tests, and finally recover these test results. As for the safety of the tester's life, it is not in their consideration at all. As far as Rog knows, there are many unknown small mercenary teams that have accepted such an actual combat test commission and then inexplicably died on an unknown battlefield. Generally speaking, the second test method is only used by small weapon developers or those who can't afford to pay for it. There is no need for such a behemoth like Oscorp to use this method. But judging from Alexei's current appearance, what he said should be true. Oscorp, it seems that it is not as simple as he thought. Daring to conduct an actual combat test of weapon-type armor in New York, this kind of courage is not something that ordinary people can have. Chapter 157. After going back, let Sky investigate Oscorp. Maybe there will be unexpected gains. After seeing Rog stop for a while, Alexei finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although he doesn't look very smart, that doesn't mean he's really stupid. At some point, he has a wit that is completely inconsistent with his appearance. Just when everyone thought that Rog was going to hand over Alexei, who had no power to fight back, to the police, the Kusanagi sword in his hand flashed with thunder and lightning again. Let him go? Logue had never thought of it that way. Although the information given by Alexei is still valuable, it is far from enough to let him go. And with one less unstable factor like Alexei, New York will be safer. Alexei in the rhino armor watched the Kusanagi sword entwined with lightning again, and then before he could say anything, the Kusanagi sword pierced his head. When Alexei said Oscorp, he was destined to say goodbye to his life, the only difference was who did it. After solving Alexei's episode, Rog went directly back to the top of the building with the Flying Thunder God, and then returned home with Gwen. "You did a good job tonight, but you're a little inexperienced. It's not your fault that the Rhino Man caused collateral damage. Superheroes are not gods and they can't protect everyone." It's not a good sign for a newcomer like Gwen to encounter this kind of situation for the first time. But when Gwen took off the white hood on her battle suit, Rog felt that his comfort just now seemed a little superfluous. Gwen not only didn't have the slightest loneliness and unwillingness, but she also looked unsatisfied. "I'm fine, don't forget, I grew up in a police family," Gwen replied with a smile. After seeing Gwen's appearance at this time, Rog finally felt relieved. He was afraid that Gwen, after having the power beyond ordinary people, would not intuitively regard saving others and the world as her obligation, and eventually become the so-called savior with the mentality of, "Everything I do is for the whole world." That's right, he was referring to S.H.A.L.D., represented by Mother Kerr Fokker. You want to save the world, but have you asked for the world's opinion? Maybe the world doesn't even want you to save it. How do you know what their thinking isn't? Destroy, hurry up. Taking the initiative to help others when they were in need or in danger was a hero. When others didn't need it at all, forcefully helping others for their own good or self-righteously, that wasn't called a hero. That was called shameless. When Gavin took off his battle suit and returned to his room to rest, Rog came to the company with the Flying Thunder God and went directly to Sky's office. Although it was already late at night, for a hacker girl like Sky who liked to stay up late at night was the time when they were the most active. The lights in Sky's office were off, and the screen was the only source of light in the room. Through the screen he could see Sky's little head. She didn't know if it was because Sky was too engrossed or because Rog's footsteps were too soft. When Rog came to Sky's side, Sky didn't even notice his arrival. Rog thought that Sky was invading some secret department again, but after seeing the page displayed on the screen, he couldn't help but frown. Sky was now logged into an anonymous communication and posting website. The name of the website was simple and crude. Who is the masked man? Since the Avengers officially appeared, guessing the true identity of the masked man has become a new way for people to pass the time. Rog had heard of the website, Who is the Masked Man, before. Among the many websites that used his identity as a gimmick, this website was worthy of being the first and the only one that had been interviewed by Fox News Channel. It had the most registered users, the most posts, and the most bizarre users: a disfigured woman, a biohuman secretly studied by the government, a Zatari who abandoned the dark, an alien who didn't want to show his face. Some people even said that he was the reincarnation of President Roosevelt's soul and provided a lot of seemingly reliable evidence. Rog wasn't surprised that Sky would log on to this website. What he didn't expect was that Sky was the administrator of this website. Looking at Sky using the account with the highest administrator authority to reply to all kinds of irresponsible posts and pin the posts that speculated that he was a woman one by one, he knew that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. What is this, the head of the anti-fans? My subordinate is the head of my biggest anti-fans. Rog felt like he had seen this situation before. At this time, Sky was still replying to all kinds of speculation posts. The speed of her fingers typing on the keyboard was even faster than Rog's sword dancing. This masked man is really shameless. He actually uses a mask to increase his sense of mystery. Too shameless. Rog glanced at the content of the post that Sky was replying to and said silently, "That's right. Everyone else has openly revealed their identities. Only he," Sky, who was replying to the post, instinctively replied. Then she realized that something was wrong. Without the slightest hesitation, Sky's right hand swiped across the messy desk, and a metal kunai that looked exactly like the Thor appeared in her hand. The next second, the kunai flew towards Rog. Her reaction was very sharp and she was very decisive. But it was useless. Although Rog was right next to Sky and he didn't dodge, the kunai still seriously missed its target and hit the wall behind him. Then it was ruthlessly bounced away. "Why are you here?" After discovering that it was Rog, Sky closed the page and asked loudly, "Why can't I be here?" Rog answered calmly, "When did you get here? You just got here, right?" Sky paused for a moment and continued to ask, "When you pinned the post that suspected that I was a Japanese woman dressed as a man." Rog continued to reply calmly, "You?" Sky was silent, her hands crossed over her chest, looking like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. "Since you're so energetic, you shouldn't mind helping me check something. I want you to invade the central control mainframe of Oscorp. I want to know all the projects that Oscorp has been researching recently. If you need external hardware support, I can let the Punisher or Shadow Clone assist you." Of course, a small rhino armor couldn't arouse his interest. But after knowing that Oscorp might be conducting actual combat tests, he became interested in a bioelectricity project of Oscorp. Chapter 158. As a business giant that can compete with Stark Industries on military orders, Oscorp has a lot of strange research. And without exception, Oscorp's research has the possibility of weaponization and militarization. Although Oscorp has a lot of research projects, there are not many that can interest Rog, especially those that can help him now. In addition to Richard's mutant spider, the only thing that can attract his attention now is Max the Electric Man. But for the time being, he is not sure whether Max the Electric Man has been born. Unlike the rhino armor, which is a product of some pure purpose, the birth of Max the Electric Man was purely an accident. Max is a talented electrical engineer, and his design even helped Oscorp win a crucial New York power grid project. But unfortunately, Oscorp didn't pay attention to him and regarded him as a dispensable low-level employee. Until Max's birthday, he fell into a water tank with mutant electric eels. If Rog's memory is correct, that's how the Electric Man was born. But he's not sure now whether the Electric Man will be born as he remembers. If the Electric Man is born, then he doesn't mind having a pleasant lightning exchange with the Electric Man. If not, those mutant electric eels can also satisfy his curiosity a little. Rog is not angry? After finding that Rog was not as angry as she thought, several ideas came to Sky's mind. Then she changed back to her previous fearless appearance. "I can help you investigate all the research projects of Oscorp, but I want a reward." Sky suddenly said, "Reward? What reward do you want?" This is the first time Sky has offered a reward. After being reminded by Sky, Rog remembered that he never seemed to have given Sky any reward. In fact, not only Sky but even Abomination and Punisher he didn't give any reward. However, he remembered that Erica would give them a huge sum of money every month as their monthly remuneration. It's better to give them a huge sum of money than to ask for their well-being. Simple and crude but very effective. Tell me, what reward do you want? Since Sky has taken the initiative to ask this question, Rog doesn't mind fulfilling her wish. It's simple. I hope that you can be my combat instructor. Sky directly stated the reward she wanted, and then she heard Rog's decisive answer. No, I don't have the time. Change it to another one. Rog rejected Sky's request without hesitation. He could tell at a glance what Sky was up to. She felt that Erica's teaching was too strict, so she wanted to replace him as the coach. Then she could reduce or even end the training through his reluctance to lay his hands on women. Wasn't this little brat underestimating his intelligence? Rog seemed to have overlooked one point. Sky was actually about the same age as Gavin. Excuses, they're all excuses. Even if you don't have the time, don't you still have those shadow clones that can turn into smoke? Sky also decisively rejected Rog's proposal. Forget it. If you can find out the details of all Oscorp's research projects, I can let the shadow clone train you for a month. Looking at Sky's determined look, Rog chose to take a step back. It was better for the shadow clone to train Sky than for him to train her himself. After reaching a strange deal with Sky, Rog left the company and returned home. Before going to bed, he took the time to complete the last few levels of Berserker's Creed before returning to his bedroom. Berserker's Creed was cleared. What should he play next? Watchcat, Rainbow Six, or Mysterious Sky Territory? Time flew by and more than half a month passed unknowingly. Since encountering the unstable factor of the rhinoceros in the first operation, Gavin's following actions have been incredibly smooth. After half a month of continuous action, Gavin also successfully earned her own hero title, Spider-Woman. Just as Rog considered whether to guide public opinion and give Gavin a more pleasant hero name, Gavin herself was very happy to accept the title of Spider-Woman and even accepted an informal interview for it. After a high-level fire rescue. Since Gavin herself had no opinion, Rog was too lazy to make any small moves. And the two titles of the Masked Man and Spider-Woman were a good match. Gavin's side was going well, but Sky's side was in an unimaginable deadlock. More than half a month later, Sky cracked all the databases and firewalls related to Oscorp. Then she got a lot of useful and useless information and data. It was useful because what she investigated was confidential information about Oscorp. If she was willing to give this information to Oscorp's competitors, Oscorp would not fall to the bottom, but at least it would be badly hurt. But the problem was that this information had no significance to Rog. Through this information he knew all the projects that Oscorp was now researching. However, he only knew the general idea and name of the project. As for the specific progress and research results of the project, he didn't see a word. Although it was very different from what he imagined, he did find something that interested him. On the feasibility and development of human capacitors, preliminary report on carbon-based bioelectricity, mutant electric eels biological structural reorganization test on humanoid creatures. There were many similar reports, but they all had only one report name and the submitted funding application. Oscorp's practice of guarding specific research reports made Rog think of Dr. Connors. When Dr. Connors was still honestly presiding over the interspecies genetic research project, Oscorp was not so cautious. However, Rog could still understand why Oscorp had become like this. Every now and then, a good company would be violently invaded by some people. And every invasion something would be lost more or less. As long as Oscorp's management had not lost their minds collectively, they would certainly upgrade the corresponding security level. After more than half a month of trying, it was basically certain that the gentle and kind way could not get the desired information from Oscorp. Therefore, Rog intended to use his best and most skilled way to deal with this matter. Oscorp, you forced me to do this. If you had cooperated a little, I wouldn't have had to use this method. Thinking of the situation that Oscorp was about to face, Rog sighed helplessly. Chapter 159. After nightfall, 50 Loki, with antler helmets attacked all of Oscorp's research institutes. Whether it was those that everyone knew on the surface or those that secretly seemed to have nothing to do with Oscorp. Although there was no specific information and progress of those research projects in the intelligence collected by Sky, it was not difficult to infer the location of these research institutes from this information. especially when these institutes apply for research funds and equipment from Oscorp from time to time. After sending out the 50 shadow clones that turned into Loki, Rog waited in the office. While waiting for the shadow clones' feedback, he was not idle but opened a game guide and browsed it. After clearing Berserker's Creed, he was thinking about which game to continue to play. After some careful and unreasonable consideration, he chose another game called Miyazaki Old Thief's Malice, Unparalleled Black Souls 3. Cutting the grass, don't be afraid, just do it. While Rog browsed the game guide of Dark Souls 3, Harry Osborn, the head of Oscorp, was escorted by a team of bodyguards to Ravencroft Psychiatric Hospital, far from downtown New York. Since half a year ago, Norman Osborn, the founder and chairman of Oscorp, was bedridden because of his family's genetic disease. Harry, who was only 20 years old, was brought back from school by Norman and took over the business empire with a market value of hundreds of billions of dollars. Relying on his own outstanding ability, Harry, who was only 20 years old, not only successfully controlled the company's elders, but also further improved Oscorp's market share. Now Harry Osborn is known as another young business leader after Tony Stark. The grievances between Stark Industries and Oscorp have once again become the focus of attention. However, in terms of personal charm, Harry has always been weaker than Tony. The title of superhero Iron Man gave Tony a huge charm bonus and was the key to Harry's reputation never catching up with Tony. Although he can't become a superhero who saves the world like Tony, Harry doesn't care too much about it. Compared with superheroes, he prefers to be the one who controls superheroes. Led by the guards of the mental hospital, Harry came to a secret research room in the deepest part of the mental hospital. Mr. Osborn, long time no see. When Harry arrived at the secret laboratory, a man in a white coat and a pair of heavy glasses greeted him. This man was the head of the laboratory, Dr. Kafka. He was one of the top experts in the field of biological research. What's the current situation of the test subjects? Harry ignored Dr. Kafka's flattery and went directly to the central control room of the laboratory. Through the special glass in front of the central control room, Harry could clearly see the test subject, Electric Man Max, who was firmly bound in a special device. His blue body was like an electric current. His skin was almost transparent, and the blood vessels in his body were clearly visible. Streaks of electricity continuously flowed within this strange body, emitting a bluish-white light. On Electric Man Max's left temple, there was a small capacitance monitoring device that constantly recorded the intensity of the electric current in Electric Man Max's body. The overall condition of the test subject is stable. With the brainwashing technology provided by Hydra, we have been able to initially control the behavior of the test subject. Using military-grade biological stimulation electrodes and high-strength capacitors produced by the group, we have also completed the development of the test subject's ability. Dr. Kafka confidently reported the current progress. He had enough reason to be proud of being able to study a biological miracle to the current state of initial control. This kind of thing was not something that anyone could do. How is the progress of the replication test subject? When can we start the weaponization test? Harry didn't look back, his eyes still on Electric Man Max. The weaponization test can start at any time. As for the replication test subject, a suitable method has not been found yet. We have simulated the whole process of the mutation of the test subject, but we have never been able to reproduce the life form of the test subject. At this point, Dr. Kafka's tone became slightly weaker. After hearing Dr. Kafka's words, Harry turned his head and glanced at him blankly, then said with a little dissatisfaction, "Solve it as soon as possible." Harry didn't say what would happen if he couldn't solve it, but Dr. Kafka didn't dare to have the slightest carelessness. If he really couldn't solve the problem of replicating the Electric Man, then he wouldn't have to think about it in the future or even think about any problems. The shorter the sentence, the more serious the situation was. Dr. Kafka hadn't been in contact with Harry for a long time, but he knew very well that this young man was more terrifying than those old foxes who had been in the business world for decades. In the past few months, Harry had sent more than one or two of the group's old men as test subjects. Those old men at the top of the group were self-conscious and didn't put the young Harry in their eyes. As a result, they were sent by Harry to accompany those mutant electric eels. This young man was very ruthless. A few minutes later, just as Harry was about to leave the laboratory, the guard in charge of guarding the psychiatric hospital suddenly reported a message. "Someone has invaded, it's the man who took Dr. Connors away last time." Rog didn't ask the shadow clone to secretly invade. Anyway, the shadow clone now looked like Loki. Even if Oscorp was dissatisfied, it was impossible to trace it back to him. If you have any opinions, go to Asgard to find Odin for feedback. if you can see Odin. Although the guards of the psychiatric hospital were pretty good, they were still too insignificant in front of Rog's shadow clone. Almost without wasting much time, the shadow clone broke through the heavy guards of the psychiatric hospital and quickly came to the laboratory. The actual test target is here, let the test subject do it. Harry, standing in the central control room, gave orders unhurriedly. Compared with the nervous experimenters and guards around him, Harry was as calm as a person from another dimension. Dr. Kafka wanted to continue to say something, but when he saw the heavily armed guards being hit one by one like puppets, he went directly to a computer and entered a series of instructions. The next second, the special device that bound the Electric Man Max was opened, and the Electric Man wrapped in electric current slowly floated out. Chapter 160. Kill the Intruder. As soon as the Electric Man left the restraint device, he heard the order from Harry. The Electric Man floating in the air turned to look at Harry in the central control room, then landed directly on the ground, and the electric current on his body disappeared. After landing on the ground, the Electric Man didn't immediately attack and transform into Loki's shadow clone. Instead, he silently looked at his hands. It was the first time Electric Man Max had time to look at his current appearance since he fell into the fish tank where the mutant electric eels were raised. He only remembered that the mutant electric eels attacked him one after another. Some of the mutant electric eels even swam directly into his body from his mouth. Pain, extreme pain. Electric Man Max couldn't remember what happened after that. The only thing he still remembers now is the extreme pain of his whole body being torn apart and reassembled again and again. When he woke up again, he was already in this laboratory and hung on the special restraint device like a mummy. In the following days, he experienced all kinds of inhuman experiments beyond his imagination. Until one day, several people in Hydra uniforms came to the laboratory. Later, in addition to those inhumane experimental tests, he also began the 24-hour brainwashing experience. When the brainwashing was over, the thoughts of revenge that had filled his whole mind completely disappeared. At this time, Max was no longer the mutant who hated Oscorp, but a weapon in the hands of Oscorp, a powerful biological weapon. After silently examining his hands and his current body, Electric Man Max raised his head to look at his doppelganger. Without any hesitation, Electric Man Max raised his right hand directly, and an electric current gushed out of his palm in an instant, like real lightning striking the shadow clone. Although the shadow clone is not the main body, the shadow clone can basically do what the main body can do. Except for a little weak resistance, the shadow clone can basically be equivalent to the main body. At the moment when Electric Man Max raised his right hand, the shadow clone also launched an attack at the first time. Lightning release, Chidori Sharp Spear. Electric Man Max's right hand and the shadow clone's right hand emerged with a strong current at the same time. The only difference is that the Chidori Sharp Spear in the hand of the shadow clone has a complete form. The current emitted by Electric Man Max maintains the original irregular form of the current. Sizzle, the electric current shot out by Electric Man Max instantly collided with the shadow doppelganger's Chidori Sharp Spear, producing a series of ear-piercing electric current sounds. Bang 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 bang, the irregular electric current was in a deadlock with the Chidori Sharp Spear. The electric current generated by the collision of the two kept striking the surroundings, making the originally dark laboratory suddenly brighten up. All kinds of metal instruments were hit by the electric currents that were running around. Then, without any suspense, they exploded and turned into fireballs. Compared to the devices that had exploded due to the electric shock, the guards close to the Electric Man Max and the Shadow Doppelganger were in an even worse state. If the metal instrument was hit, it would at most explode. However, if these guards were to be struck by the electric current, their lives would be taken away. When a few unlucky guards were instantly killed by the electric current, the remaining guards did not hesitate and retreated, no longer interfering in the inhuman battle between the electric figure and the shadow clone. Water release, water iron cannon. When the Chidori Sharp Spear was blocked by the electric current shot out from the electric figure's hand, the shadow doppelganger raised its left hand and directly shot the electric figure. The water iron cannon's liquid bullet arrived in front of Electric Man Max at a speed faster than the speed of sound. Then it directly pierced through Electric Man Max's head. No, it was not pierced through. The moment the liquid bullet arrived in front of Electric Man Max's head suddenly changed from a stable biological form to a pure energy form. The liquid bullet flew into Electric Man Max's head and was instantly vaporized. Although the liquid bullet had an extremely strong penetrating power, in the end it was just a ball of water condensed with chakra. While he was energizing his head, Electric Man Max didn't stay idle. He also raised his left hand. Just when everyone thought that Electric Man Max would use his left hand to shoot the electric current, Electric Man Max directly used himself as the center and erupted with an energy storm formed completely by lightning. When Electric Man had just unleashed the lightning storm, the Shadow Doppelganger had already planned to leave the laboratory with the Flying Thunder God. However, when the Shadow Doppelganger connected to the Flying Thunder God technique in the outside world, the Shadow Doppelganger directly gave up the idea of Flying Thunder God. I'm a person who has no feelings for information. Since the information is in my hands, then what happens next is none of my business. The Shadow Doppelganger must have the awareness of a Shadow Doppelganger. It must not steal the limelight from the original body. Thus, the Shadow Doppelganger ended the Chidori sharp spear in its right hand and allowed Electric Man's lightning storm to hit it. Bang! After being hit by the lightning storm, the Shadow Doppelganger turned into a cloud of smoke without any suspense. At the same time, it fed back the information it obtained to the original body. Rog, who was browsing through the unparalleled Onyx Soul strategy in the office, immediately received the feedback from the Shadow Doppelganger. Then he came to a conclusion. This Shadow Doppelganger had a lot of personality. If he could work less, he would work less. If he could be at the bottom, he would not be at the top. This lazy character was exactly the same as him. Harry, who had been expressionless, finally changed his face when he saw the intruder fighting with Electric Man Max turned into a cloud of smoke and disappeared. Although he didn't deal with Rog, he heard from Hydra that this kind of doppelganger would turn into smoke after being attacked. Rog, the masked man of Konoha Private Military Company. For ordinary people, the identity of the masked man is a secret. But for those who have enough channels, it's easy to know that Rog is the masked man. Harry Osborn happens to be such a person with enough channels. It was he who took Dr. Connors away. Is he targeting Oscorp? Is it a black dog? It's a bit interesting. The intruder was Rog's Shadow Doppelganger, so it should also be his Shadow Doppelganger who took Dr. Connors away from the laboratory. Dr. Connors had been handed over to Oscorp, and Dr. Connors had been taken away. Harry is not only no stranger to this kind of black dog routine, but he is also very familiar with it. When he first took over Oscorp, he used this method a lot. For a while, Harry had the idea that he was the same kind of person as Rog. Chapter 161. At this time, Rog didn't know that Harry had regarded him as the same kind. Now he is selecting the ninjutsu he needs from the systems exchange page. To be precise, it's a sealing technique. Electric Man Max was able to turn his body into energy, which meant that most of his attacks would not be able to do any harm to Max. However, this doesn't mean that he has no way to deal with the Electric Man. Since the enemy can energize his body, then he just needs to seal the opponent's ability. Energization is indeed a very difficult ability to deal with, but it's far from unsolvable. In the systems exchange page, there is a page dedicated to the exchange of sealing techniques. Susanoo, Tatsuka Sword, Chibaku Tensei, 6 Paths, Chibaku Tensei, Immortal Method, Magnetic Release Rasengan, Immortal Method, Bright God Gate. Looking at these exchange icons shining with golden light, Rog directly chose to ignore them. To deal with an Electric Man, he doesn't need these advanced goods. It didn't take long for him to choose the sealing technique he needed this time. 4 symbols seal plus a King Kong seal that can both attack and defend. These 2 ninjutsu directly consumed 70 ninja coins, making his unconsumed ninja coins amount to 305. After the Battle of New York, he didn't slack off. Especially after accepting the commission from Oscorp, he executed the commission for several months in a row, making his unconsumed ninja coins amount to 375. The 2 ninjutsu only added up to 70 ninja coins. In general, this is a good and cheap exchange. After completing the exchange, Rog didn't go to Ravencroft Psychiatric Hospital immediately. Instead, he first practiced these 2 ninjutsu in the office before transforming into Loki and teleporting there. Although the ninjutsu used when he attacked may be recognized, the disguise still needs to be done. This is a matter of attitude. Regardless of whether this disguise is useful or not, he still needs to be cautious. Rog, who had transformed into Loki, arrived at the Thor teleportation point closest to Ravencroft Mental Hospital. Just as he was about to teleport to the mental hospital, he saw the Electric Man in a special battle suit flying out of the mental hospital. Electric Man Max had no intention of hiding his existence at all. He flew through the air in an arrogant manner, drawing a bright arc in the night sky at the same time. Where was this guy going? Rog thought that Electric Man Max was going to leave New York, but Electric Man flew in the opposite direction. Not only did the Electric Man show no signs of leaving New York, but he also flew directly to Times Square. Rog seemed to have guessed the guy's plan when he saw the Electric Man flying arrogantly across the night sky without hiding his tracks. Did he want to use a grand enough stage to announce his debut? Times Square was a famous neighborhood in New York. It was known as the crossroads of the world. It was a landmark with high popularity in the whole world. Appearing in such a place as long as the next day was not the end of the world, it could basically be regarded as a scheduled headline for the next day's newspaper. Now that the destination of Electric Man had been predicted, Rog naturally did not need to follow him and teleported directly to the top of a building near Times Square. After the teleportation, he also lifted the effect of the transformation technique on his body. Although he did not know why Max the Electric Man had done this, or what Harry Osborn had in mind. But since the other party wanted to play, he didn't mind playing with them. Without any hesitation, he psychically brought out his signature equipment. Wearing the 3-tomo mask, the thunder fan and the Kusanagi sword, Rog patiently waited for the arrival of Electric Man. It didn't take long for Electric Man, who had been showing off all the way, to come to the sky above Times Square. Then, under the watchful eyes of the public, there was a superhero-like descent. Boom. Like a bolt of lightning falling from the sky, it hit a deep pit on the ground. Then, Electric Man, who was kneeling on one knee, slowly stood up and opened his arms to the frightened crowd in front of him. I, Electric Man, am on the stage. As he expected after his appearance, the crowd that had gathered in the square suddenly dispersed and left quickly as if they were escaping a disaster. At the same time, the reporters who had been interviewing in the square also pointed their cameras at him. In the next second, the face of Electric Man, which was very different from that of human beings, appeared on the outdoor display screens around the square. Dozens of large and small outdoor displays around Times Square showed Electric Man Max's face at the same time. This experience, which even superstars may not have, made Electric Man Max feel a long-lost sense of importance and satisfaction. This feeling of being watched by the whole world is really cool. Although it was very different from the scene he had originally imagined, Electric Man Max was still very satisfied with the treatment at this time. Get down. Get on the ground right now. Raise your hands now. However, Electric Man Max's beautiful experience was quickly interrupted by the New York police around the square. In less than a minute, more than a dozen police officers rushed to the scene and pulled out their pistols from their waists and aimed at him. With the passage of time, more and more police cars rushed over. It didn't take long for more than a dozen police cars with sirens to surround Electric Man Max. The surrounding police officers kept warning Electric Man. After noticing that Electric Man showed no signs of following their warnings, these police officers threw a few smoke bombs at Electric Man. However, as soon as these smoke bombs that exuded irritating gas reached Electric Man Max, they were all knocked away by the electric current on his body. The moment the smoke bombs were bounced away, the surrounding police officers also pulled the triggers of their pistols and rifles. Bang 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 bang, intense gunshots rang out, and hundreds of bullets flew toward the Electric Man. Faced with the police's attack, Electric Man did not have any intention of dodging. A dazzling electric light flashed around his body. The bullets that flew at high speed hit the electric light and were instantly disintegrated. None of the bullets broke through this layer of dazzling electric light, and none of the bullets hit Electric Man's body. Now it's my turn. The moment the gunshots ended, Electric Man Max clenched his fists and then swung them down hard. Boom. An energy storm composed entirely of electric current erupted with a loud bang. In the thunderous sound, a dazzling electric current spread in a circle, and the surrounding police officers and police cars were instantly sent flying by the electric current. Chapter 162. Although their positions are different, it has to be said that Electric Man Max's appearance is very impressive. With just a simple display of his superpower, the image of an insufferably arrogant villain was born. After Electric Man Max released Lightning Storm, the policeman who was thrown into the air struggled to stand up and then quickly retreated for a distance. Since the Battle of New York, people all over the world have known that there are all kinds of monsters in the world besides ordinary humans. Aliens, mutants, enhanced people. Although these monsters look like humans one by one, in fact, none of them are easy to deal with. And the emergence of superheroes such as the Avengers has also made people understand that monsters should be dealt with by monsters. Standing on the top floor of the building, Rog looked down at the Electric Man in the square and a doubt came into his mind. What does Oscorp want to do? First, they gave the Rhino armor to dangerous people like Alexei for actual combat testing, and now they let Electric Man Max cause a riot in Times Square. Rog knows that Harry Osborn is the young man who is now in control of Oscorp, so he can't understand what Harry Osborn is up to. Harry Osborn is young, but he is definitely not the kind of person who will do these meaningless things because he is young. This guy is definitely planning something. Just as Rog was thinking about what Harry Osborn was up to, Gwen, wearing a black and white spider suit, rushed to Times Square at this time. During this time, Gwen went out to patrol for justice and fight against evil almost every night. So after discovering the riot in Times Square, Gwen did not hesitate and rushed over as soon as possible. When Gwen swayed to Times Square through the spider silk, there was a sudden cheer in the square. Spider-Woman! 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 Gwen has not been in the public eye for a long time, only for more than half a month. But even so, she has gained a lot of fans and even has her own fan support station and derivative toys. As long as there is enough exposure, even if she is just an ordinary person, she can become a superhero in people's hearts. What's more, Gwen is not an ordinary person. Gwen's appearance suddenly took away a lot of the shots belonging to Electric Man Max, and the outdoor display screen no longer showed only Electric Man Max's face. Electric Man Max versus Spider-Gwen. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. Just when everyone thought that the emerging superhero, Spider-Woman, would have a fierce confrontation with Electro, a sword wrapped in electric current streaked across the night sky like lightning and stabbed into the ground between Gwen and Electro. This was the Masked Man's sword. Although Rog hasn't appeared yet, when people recognized that the Kusanagi sword was his, the crowd once again burst into cheers. The cheers were more than 10 times louder than when Gavin appeared. Spider-Woman was just a new hero that had appeared not long ago, and the enemies she dealt with were just ordinary criminals. But the Masked Man was completely different. This was a superhero who shone brightly when aliens invaded New York. He was a superhero who could deal with the alien soldiers like cutting grass. Although the Masked Man did not appear in public after the battle in New York, it did not mean that people had forgotten his existence. In particular, he suddenly appeared half a month ago and solved the Rhino Man that made the New York police helpless. When Rog teleported to the Kusanagi sword through the Thor, and then pulled out the Kusanagi sword that was inserted into the ground, the cheers at the scene reached a peak, and the outdoor displays around the square all switched to him. Let me deal with this guy. Rog didn't explain too much to Gwen. After hearing Rog's words, Gwen nodded silently, and then quickly came to the police who were trapped in the police car and rescued them one by one. Do you have any last words? Rog raised the Kusanagi sword and pointed the tip of the sword at Electric Man Max. Electric Man Max immediately gave his answer to Rog's impolite inquiry. Electric Man Max raised his hands directly, and a bolt of lightning gushed out of his palms and directly struck Rog, who was dozens of meters away. For these lightning bolts, the distance of dozens of meters can be covered in an instant. At the moment when Electric Man Max raised his hands, Rog also opened his Sharingan for the first time. However, after opening his Sharingan, he didn't want to avoid Electric Man Max. When those lightning bolts came in front of him with an irresistible power, he used ninjutsu. Lightning release, Chidori. The lightning emitted by Electric Man Max and the lightning gushing out of Rog's body collided fiercely, and a gorgeous and dangerous blazing light suddenly lit up, becoming the most eye-catching existence in the entire square. No one thought that Rog would use this method to resist the attack of Electric Man. Even Electric Man Max himself didn't expect that the lightning he emitted could be blocked like this. The lightning emitted by Electric Man Max seems to be omnipresent, but in the end, it's just ordinary electric current. It's not impossible to block this attack with Chidori, which also has the lightning attribute. Only magic can fight against magic. Similarly, only thunder and lightning can fight against thunder and lightning. This gorgeous and dangerous light did not last long before it dissipated. However, when the light completely dissipated, people found that Rog's figure was also missing. In terms of the degree of mutation, Electric Man Max does have a unique advantage. But the problem is that he has no combat experience. Before the mutation, Max was just a talented electrical engineer. After the mutation, he was locked in a mental hospital and studied day and night by Oscorp. Although Oscorp used Hydra's brainwashing technology to successfully brainwash Max into a biological weapon, it didn't change the fact that Max was an inexperienced novice. With Electric Man Max's ability, it's no problem for him to bully ordinary people. But in front of Rog, a battlefield veteran with terrifying combat experience, he is no different from a pig waiting to be slaughtered. Lightning release, Chidori blade. Electric Man Max didn't notice Rog's arrival at all until Rog's voice sounded in front of him, and he barely saw Rog's looming figure. Sai. The Kusanagi sword wrapped in lightning drew a beautiful arc and directly cut through Electric Man Max's neck. One sword beheading. Chapter 163. Judging from the effect of the scene, Rog's sword can be described as wonderful. Whether it is the speed of the shot or the angle of the attack, it can be described as perfect. However, Rog, who swung this sword, did not have any happy expression. The feeling is wrong. The attack missed. Although the Kusanagi sword wrapped in lightning cut across Electric Man Max's neck, there was no feeling of hitting the target from the Kusanagi sword. Although Electric Man Max's combat experience is close to zero, his survival instinct is close to a perfect score. Just at the moment when the Kusanagi sword was about to cut his neck, he instantly energized his body and avoided Rog's sword. His reaction is really fast. After the sword missed, Rog did not hesitate and directly used the body flicker technique to retreat dozens of meters away. It was not until Rog completely retreated that Electric Man Max recondensed his body into a human form. If he had not energized his body in time, then he should have become a corpse on the ground by now. The pressure of death made Electric Man Max put away all his arrogance and looked at Rog not far away with a dignified expression. When he left the mental hospital, Harry Osborn reminded Electric Man to be careful of people wearing masks. Electric Man Max didn't quite understand what it meant, but now he finally understood why Harry Osborn gave such a reminder. The guy with the mask is dangerous, very dangerous. But even so, Electric Man Max still did not have any fear. The current me is no longer that submissive existence from before. Now I am very strong, very strong. Electric Man Max began to fully stimulate the energy in his body, and electric currents of different colors appeared around him, and his whole body became extremely bright, as hot and dazzling as the summer sun. Is this a big move? In that case, I will play with you seriously. Looking at the Electric Man who was getting brighter and brighter, Rog lifted the Chidori flow on his body. Then, the light blue chakra coat began to cover his whole body. It was different from the chakra coat he used in the past. This time the chakra coat was slightly different. On the light blue chakra's coat, visible lightning bolts could be seen moving around continuously. Rog's body was completely activated. It was an armor that wrapped lightning around the body, increasing the toughness and speed of the body, and activating the body. This was the lightning chakra mode with the lightning armor. His speed, defensive ability, and nerve conduction speed were all greatly improved at this moment. When Rog entered the lightning release chakra mode, Electric Man Max had finally finished the initial stage of charging. Electric Man Max let out a loud roar, and a lightning storm far stronger than before was instantly born. Boom. With Electric Man Max as the center, violent electric currents spread out in all directions, wantonly destroying everything around him. The ground, cars, buildings, street lamps, police officers, onlookers, the violent electric currents swept through the surroundings like a hurricane, and the bustling Times Square suddenly disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a mess like a battlefield. When the lightning storm destroyed everything around it with irresistible force, a figure stood firmly on the ground, facing the attack of the lightning storm head-on, as motionless as a mountain. That's it? A big move with such a long lead time is only this powerful? After standing in place and resisting Electric Man Max's move, Rog couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. I deliberately entered the lightning release chakra mode and this is all you showed me? Aren't you looking down on me too much? Rog thought that Electric Man Max could bring him a fairly pleasant battle, but it turned out that he thought too much. As far as the current situation was concerned, Electric Man Max only knew 3 moves. Electric Shock, Lightning Storm, Energy Body. Although the move just now was a little stronger than the previous lightning storm, in the end it was just a lightning storm. In that case I'll finish you quickly. With a thought, Rog's figure disappeared from everyone's sight again. The moment Rog disappeared, Electric Man Max didn't hesitate and immediately began to energy body. However, his reaction was still a step too slow. Lightning Body Blink. After entering the lightning release chakra mode, Rog's body blink technique also became Lightning Body Blink, which was faster and the activation time was shorter. As soon as Electric Man Max noticed that Rog had disappeared, Rog had already appeared in front of him. 4-symbol seal. Under Electric Man Max's gaze, Rog's left hand wrapped around chakra pressed on his chest. In an instant, a seal with spiral patterns appeared on Electric Man Max's chest. Although Electric Man Max didn't know what the 4-symbol seal was, when the seal of the 4-symbol seal appeared directly on his body through the special combat suit on his body, he immediately noticed that something was wrong. His energy body had lost its effect. The process of Electric Man Max's energy body was directly interrupted by the four-symbol seal, and the energy body's ability disappeared in an instant. "You're not just weak." Rog's voice rang in Electric Man Max's ears, and then he was completely sent flying. The four-symbol seal was a powerful sealing technique that used the cycle of the four symbols to seal evil, and it had an extremely powerful sealing effect. Whether it was a powerful enemy or an evil demon, they could all be sealed with the four-symbol seal. Although Electric Man Max wasn't strong, nor was he an evil demon, this didn't stop Rog from using the four-symbol seal to deal with him. Moreover, he didn't plan to seal Electric Man Max into his body or some tool. What he wanted was to use the four-symbol seal to stop Electric Man Max from energy body transformation. Rog wasn't very sure if the four-symbol seal could stop Electric Man Max from energy body transformation, so in addition to the four-symbol seal, he also exchanged for the Vajra seal. However, judging from the current situation, the four-symbol seal was more than enough. Without the ability to transform his body into energy, Electric Man Max was just a sandbag that could discharge electricity, and a sandbag that had a limited amount of electricity. The battle that followed was simple and dull. In front of Rog, who had entered the lightning chakra mode, Electric Man Max didn't even have a chance to fight back. All the electricity in his body was violently drained by Rog. In the end, under everyone's gaze, Electric Man was taken away by Rog with the flying Thor, completely disappearing from Times Square. Rog didn't kill Electric Man directly because before killing him, he still had some small experiments that required Electric Man's cooperation. Chapter 164. Rog didn't take Max back to Dr. Connor's laboratory, but took him to the forest where he practiced Mokutan before. Dr. Connors couldn't help him with the experiments he wanted to do, and some of them were not suitable for children. After teleporting to the forest he didn't know the name of, he threw Max, who had no resistance, on the ground. Then he used the auxiliary skills he got when he exchanged Sage Mode. Inherent Enchantment, Shikatsu Forest. In an instant, the forest in front of him was replaced by Shikatsu Forest, and the natural energy in the air became rich. Although Electric Man Max had used up all the electricity in his body, he did not pass out because of this. He didn't know if it was because of his intuition, but when he saw the forest in front of him was replaced by Shikatsu Forest, he suddenly felt an extremely dangerous signal in his heart. Although I don't have any personal grudges with you, you should know very well that sometimes the world is so unreasonable. If there is a next life, try not to meet me. Rog looked down at Max, who was lying on the ground, and said silently. Then he came to the front of Max. In the next week, Rog came here every day to cast Inherent Enchantment, Shikatsu Forest, and at the same time to do what he wanted to do with Max. To be precise, he was studying the secrets of Max's energized body. It's not only the well-known ninja with multiple genders who has the spirit of scientific research. Rog also has a strong spirit of scientific research sometimes. And by studying Max, he can also help him further develop his own lightning ninjutsu. Time flies, and it was December in a blink of an eye. As early as a few months ago, Max was personally sent to death by Rog. Because of Max's selfless dedication, he successfully developed several new lightning ninjutsu, and his understanding and mastery of lightning release, chakra mode, has also been further improved. In these few months, the world was very peaceful. Except for a terrorist called Mandolin that occupied the headlines for several months, everything was quite good. As soon as Mandolin appeared, he gave the US government a few tight slaps in the face. Attacking an overseas base of the United States, launching a terrorist attack within the United States, and openly releasing a provocative video. Because of Mandolin's strong appearance, the small commotion caused by the rhinoceros and the Electric Man in New York instantly died down. All the news channels focused their attention on Mandolin, the superstar among the terrorists. Live broadcast has been interrupted due to a cyber attack. An American airline has been hijacked. The entire country is on high alert. Where is Mandolin? Search the entire world. The president responds to the threat of Mandolin and vows to eliminate the terrorists. He could see news reports related to Mandolin if he turned on any channel. The United States government spent a lot of manpower and material resources to search for Mandolin all over the world for a few months, but they found nothing. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. received an order to search for Mandolin, but they also found nothing. However, whether they really found nothing, or whether S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't put in the effort to search at all, only King Fokker would know. So far, the only clear information was that Mandolin was related to the Tenring gang that kidnapped Tani. However, Mandolin obviously had no intention of hiding this, because at the end of the provocative video, he arrogantly displayed the Tenring Gang's logo. My cabinet is actively responding to the Mandolin terrorist incident and will use new manpower and material resources to fight back. He is Colonel James Rhodes. The American people will soon be familiar with this Iron Patriot. It was unknown whether it was for the purpose of easing public opinion, or if he really put his hopes on Colonel Rhodes. The current President Ellis pulled out the repainted war machine and renamed it Iron Patriot. However, his approach did not receive the support of the people. Instead, he received a lot of ridicule from the media. It's still the same battle suit but painted red, white and blue. He also renamed it Iron Patriot to avoid being recognized if the paint is too thin. Is this how President Ellis responded? He took out the old war machine and repainted it. This is too smart. At this time, Rog was bored watching the news in his office, and at the same time he was thinking about whether to go to Los Angeles. If he remembered correctly, Tawny had a fight with the real Mandolin, and in the end there was a fireworks show with a full Iron Man suit. Just as he was thinking about whether to go to Los Angeles, he suddenly saw the live broadcast of Tawny declaring war on Mandolin. I have a small greeting to give to this Mandolin. I just thought of the words. My name is Tawny Stark. You are not terrible because you are just a coward. I'm ready, you wait to die, man. I will kill you with my own hands. This is not about politics. I want to take revenge on you for a personal grudge. This has nothing to do with the Department of Defense. It's a personal grudge between you and me. Let's have a fair fight. This is my address, 10880 Marbury Port, 90265. I will open the door to welcome you. After that, Tawny picked up the mobile phone of the man in front of him and threw it hard at the stone pillar next to him. After throwing the man's mobile phone, Tawny also said to the man, "Sue me," and then boarded his Audi R8 and left the hospital. He's very angry. Although he only watched the live news, Rog could already guess why Tawny was so angry. For Tawny, there are not many friends who can get his approval. And his driver and bodyguard, Happy, happens to be one of them. Sure enough, after a casual search on the internet, he found the news that Happy was injured in a terrorist attack. Rog picked up the phone on his desk and dialed Erica's internal number. "Erica, help me book a first-class ticket to Los Angeles, the sooner the better. If there is no flight, a private jet will also do." Although Mandolin belonged to Tawny's exclusive dungeon, he should not mind having one more person when clearing the dungeon. More than an hour later, when Rog arrived at JFK Airport alone, he received a call from Tawny. To be precise, it was a call from Little Pepper. "Rog, are you free now? We need your help." As soon as Little Pepper's voice sounded, Tawny's voice followed. "Hey buddy, it's nothing, just a small terrorist, I can handle it myself." Before Rog had time to speak, there was a serious quarrel on the other side of the phone. After waiting silently for a few minutes, Tawny's voice sounded again. "Well buddy, I need your help. You should know my address, I'll wait for you at home. I'll be there in 5 hours. Chapter 165. After more than 5 hours of flight, Rog successfully flew from New York to Los Angeles. Then he came to Tawny's seaside mansion located at 10880 Marbury Harbor. Or rather, the seaside ruins. Fire trucks, police cars, news interview vehicles. All kinds of vehicles were densely packed on the road in front of Tawny's mansion, making the originally wide road impenetrable. "Sir, you can't go in." Rog squeezed through the crowd of onlookers and was stopped by the police in front of the cordon. "You'll let me in." He raised his sunglasses slightly and exchanged glances with the police officer. Then the police officer took the initiative to let him in. This is just a simple use of the Sharingan's hypnotic ability, it's not even a genjutsu. Ignoring the busy investigators and firefighters, Rog went directly to Pepper, who was standing on the edge of the ruins. At this moment, Little Chili Pepper's eyes were staring blankly into the distance, her hands holding onto a battle helmet with obvious cracks. "Sorry Pepper, I'm late." Pepper is just a nickname. Although Rog has a good relationship with her, he has never called her by a nickname. "Rog, Tawny, he." Upon hearing Rog's voice, Little Chili Pepper finally returned to her senses and turned to look at him. Her eyes immediately showed signs of tears. "Tawny is still alive, you don't have to be too sad." Although Rog didn't see the scene at the time, he was sure that Tawny was not dead, because he saw a faint red signal light shining in the cracked helmet in Pepper's hand. "Put on the helmet and you'll know, Tawny should have left you a message." It was only then that Pepper noticed the signal light and quickly put on the helmet. A minute later, Pepper took off the helmet, and there was no longer any sadness on her face. Let's go find Tani now. After knowing that Tani was okay, Pepper also calmed down and changed back to the powerful president of Stark Industries. Don't worry now, Tani can protect himself, he's Iron Man. And if you want to solve the mandolin problem, you don't have to go so far. After that, Rog pointed to Maya Hansen not far away. Tani was now taken to some corner of Tennessee by Jarvis. Instead of wasting energy to find Tani, it's better to start directly with Maya Hansen. As for Tani's safety, it's not a matter of concern. If this world has a so-called world consciousness, then Tani is the chosen one. Even if Rog is killed by some big shot, Tani may not die. Maya Hansen? Is she related to Mandolin? Little Chili Pepper looked at Maya Hansen in disbelief. It might be a little complicated to explain, and this isn't a good place to do so. Can you find a quieter place? Compared with a stranger she just met, Pepper obviously believed in Rog more and immediately said, "No problem, come with me." A few minutes later, Pepper drove her Audi S7 and took Rog and Maya Hansen away from the ruined mansion. Rog didn't know where Pepper would take them, but it didn't matter. Anyway, as long as the place was quiet enough and there were no outsiders waiting. Pepper drove the car without saying a word. Maya Hansen sat in the passenger seat and Rog stayed alone in the back. After getting in the car, Pepper simply introduced Rog's name, and then put all her attention on driving. Maya Hansen, sitting in the passenger seat, quickly noticed that the atmosphere was not right, but she obviously had no choice at this time. More than 20 minutes later, Pepper brought Rog and Maya Hansen to a not-so-luxurious hotel and quickly checked in. As soon as they entered the hotel room and sat down, Pepper asked Maya Hansen, "Why did you come to my house today? What's so important that you have to talk to Tani face-to-face?" "I think my boss is working for Mandolin." Maya Hansen answered Pepper's question without any change in her expression. However, as soon as she answered, Rog suddenly laughed. "What's wrong?" Maya Hansen turned to look at Rog. "I thought of something happy." Rog replied in a low voice. "Your boss is working for Mandolin, how is that possible? Tani clearly said that you're a botanist." Pepper continued to ask Maya Hansen. "Yes, I'm a biological genetic coder, in charge of a team of 40 people under a privately sponsored think tank, but you can call me a botanist." Maya Hansen answered Pepper's question seriously once again, and then they heard Rog's laughter again. "What are you laughing about?" Maya Hansen's tone became a little dissatisfied. "I thought of something happy again," Rog replied, controlling his laughter. Although she knew that Rog was doing it on purpose, Maya Hansen really could not do anything about it at this time. She could only glare at him hatefully, warning him to stop causing trouble with her eyes. "What's your boss's name?" "His name is Aldrich Kyrian." After hearing Maya Hansen's answer, Pepper was shocked, and then they heard Rog's uncontrollable laughter. Pepper also noticed that Rog was acting a little strange today, but she did not understand why Rog would do this. "You've gone too far, I've tolerated you for a long time." Before Pepper could say anything, Maya Hansen was the first to speak. She stood up angrily and quickly came in front of Rog and said angrily to Rog, "Who are you?" "Me. My name is Rog, a ninja who has undergone strict training." Looking at the angry Maya Hansen, Roger finally put away the smile on his face and replied seriously. "You." Although Maya Hansen wanted to vent her anger, she knew very well that now was not a good time to do such a thing. "Okay, I'm done playing. I thought your acting skills would be better, but I didn't expect you to be this good." Rog took off his sunglasses and then said, "You may not be familiar with my name, but you should have heard of my nickname. I am the Masked Man." After hearing the Masked Man's name, Maya Hansen, who was still dissatisfied, suddenly took a deep breath and then turned to look at the door of the room. "He is the Masked Man, he is Tani's teammate in the Avengers." At this moment, Maya Hansen's mind no longer had the so-called plan. Her only thought now is how to leave here, leave this Masked Man who is dozens of times more dangerous than Iron Man Tani. Chapter 166. Give up those unrealistic ideas, I don't want to be rough with women. Rog saw Maya Hansen's thoughts at a glance and reminded her warmly. After seeing Maya Hansen's nervous behavior at this time, Little Pepper was finally convinced that Maya Hansen was indeed related to Mandolin. "Sit down first, your companions won't be here so soon." After saying that, Rog ignored Maya Hansen and went straight to find a seat and sat down. The reason why Maya Hansen appeared at Tani's house at this time was nothing more than to let Tani complete the final equation of extremis and solve the shortcoming of extremis that it will self-destruct once it overheats. Whether it was Maya Hansen taking the initiative to go to Tani's mansion, or Mandolin's men just happened to launch an attack at that time, everything was in their plan. Although the final result was a little different from what they had imagined, overall the plan was still going smoothly. Although Tani's whereabouts are unknown, Little Pepper is still there. As long as they control Little Pepper, they don't have to worry about what Tani will do to them. Maya Hansen has also been acting according to the established plan, but what she didn't expect was that the masked man Rog would appear at this time. After glancing at Little Pepper, who was already vigilant, and Rog, who had an indifferent expression, Maya Hansen silently sat back in her original position. From now on I'll ask you answer, understand? After hearing Rog's words, Maya Hansen turned her head and glanced at him, then said, "What's wrong with your eyes?" Maya Hansen's question made Rog stunned. What's wrong with this woman's brain? Is this the time to care about my eyes? Don't get the point wrong. This has nothing to do with you. What I ask you answer, you are not qualified to ask questions. Rog's tone became stern and he said solemnly, "Rog, are your eyes okay?" Maya Hansen did not say anything else, but Little Pepper's voice rang out. Little Pepper did not pay attention to Rog's eyes at first, but after hearing Maya Hansen's question, she realized that Rog's eyes were completely different from normal people's eyes. It was blood red in color and there were 3 comma-like things around its pupils. Little Chili Pepper was not the kind of person who was particularly curious, but since she had already regarded Rog as a friend, she felt that it was necessary to be concerned about Rog's current health. My eyes are fine. You can simply think of it as my superpower. Rog had no intention of explaining to them what the 3 Tomo Sharingan was and simply answered. After dealing with the matter of the electric man, Kuroto set his Sharingan to a constant state of 24 hours a day. Anyway, with second last chakra and immortal body, it wouldn't be a burden for him to keep his Sharingan open 24/7. Most importantly, he felt that this could effectively improve his style and charm. Just like the electric man, just by looking at his appearance he knew that this guy was not simple. Now back to the topic, where is Aldrich Kyrian now? Rog has no interest in the mandolin on the surface, that guy is just a stage actor. But Aldrich Kyrian was different. To a certain extent, this guy was considered a decent talent. And Rog is very interested in the extremists on him. I don't know. Maya Hansen replied quickly. But as soon as she finished speaking she saw Rog's displeased look and immediately added, I really don't know, unless he takes the initiative to find me, I can't contact him at all. Rog did not use Genjutsu on Maya Hansen, but he silently used the hypnotic ability of Sharingan. Maya Hansen is just an ordinary person. She can't resist the hypnosis of Sharingan, so it is basically certain that she is telling the truth now. Give me the equation of extremis. Since it is impossible to determine the location of Aldrich Kyrian for the time being, it is not a bad idea to get the equation of extremis first. Extremis? You want extremis? After hearing the word extremis from Rog's mouth, Maya Hansen really panicked. Except for her and Kyrian, not many people know about the existence of extremis. Even those who participated in the experimental transformation did not know the name of extremis, but now she heard the word from Rog's mouth. How does he know this? This is the highest level of secret, how could he know? Of course, Rog wouldn't tell Maya Hansen how he knew. This was his prophetic ability that belonged to him alone. Since you know about extremis, then you should know that the current virus equation is not stable. Once overheating occurs, the experimental body will self-destruct, unless you can further perfect it. Maya Hansen did not immediately hand over the equation of extremis, but directly told Rog about the flaws in it. You don't have to worry about this, you just have to give me the equation in your hand. At Rog's insistence, Maya Hansen wrote the equation of extremis on white paper, and then reluctantly handed it to Rog. This equation is the most important work of her life, and everything she has done is to completely perfect this equation. If you perfect this equation, can you let me take a look at the final result, just one look? Although she knew that this hope was infinitely close to zero, Maya Hansen still couldn't help but pray to Rog. Let's talk about it when the time comes. After carefully folding the paper with the equation and putting it in the pocket of his jacket, Rog showed a satisfied smile. The equation of extremis is in hand, and the goal of this trip is half completed. Just when Maya Hansen was about to continue to pray to Rog, the door of the room was suddenly violently knocked open, and a big man nearly 2 meters tall walked in. Your companion is here to pick you up. Rog didn't care about the big man who suddenly broke in and raised his right hand and aimed his palm at him. Lightning release, lightning palm. In an instant, more than a dozen lightning bolts as thick as 2 fingers gushed out of his palm and slammed into the big man who broke through the door. Boom. Although the lightning launched by lightning palm is not thick, its power is not weak at all. The big man at the door intended to resist lightning palm with his body, but at the moment when the lightning hit him, he was knocked out and hit the wall of the aisle heavily, leaving a human-sized hole in the wall. Lightning palm is not a ninjutsu that he exchanged from the system, and he developed the lightning release ninjutsu alone after studying Electric Man. Chapter 167. The big man didn't expect that he would be hit by such a strong lightning strike as soon as he entered the door. Rog's thunder palm not only stunned him directly, but also caused him extremely serious injuries. If he hadn't been modified by extremis, then the thunder palm just now would have sent him to hell without any suspense. He's not dead yet? He's quite resistant. Although the big man who was hit by the thunder palm was extremely embarrassed at this time, and his right arm was directly broken. But he still didn't die. On his body, Rog can also feel an extremely strong aura of life. In fact, it's not quite accurate to say that it's an aura of life. It should be said that it's a strong energy reaction. Under the gaze of Rog and the other two, the big man with a broken arm became red all over, as if there was magma flowing in his body. Not only that, the big man's broken right arm began to grow back at a speed visible to the naked eye. It took less than 10 seconds for the big man's right arm to completely recover, and his skin also returned to the appearance of a normal person. It seems that the extremis you developed is quite good. Rog turned his head and praised Maya Hansen. Although it's not stable enough and it looks a little disgusting when it recovers. But he has to admit that extremis has given the host an unimaginable and amazing recovery power. This amazing recovery effect made Rog unable to help but have the idea of injecting Abomination. Abomination, whose strength and physique are off the charts, has incredible recovery ability, turning him into a real warrior and meat shield. This kind of picture is very beautiful to think about. It would be even more perfect if Tani could fix the defect that extremis will self-destruct when it overheats. In just a second or two, several thoughts flashed through Rog's mind. If you have any positioning or tracking devices on you, you'd better take them out now. After leaving a sentence to Maya Hansen, Rog walked towards the big man in the passage. The big man was also in a dilemma at this time. According to the plan, he should have taken Little Pepper away easily. However, Rog's appearance completely disrupted their plans. Although he hadn't really fought with Rog yet, through the thunder palm just now, the big man had roughly understood the difference in strength between the two of them. One move can seriously injure him, forcing him to use extremis to repair himself. This kind of enemy was definitely not something he could handle alone. At this moment, the burly man began to regret coming here alone. If he can have a few more companions who have also been transformed by extremis now, even if he still can't defeat Rog in the end, he will at least have a chance to take Little Pepper away. Although the thunder palm that Rog used just now wasn't a powerful ninjutsu, but the loud sound like real lightning still woke up many guests in the hotel. Especially the guests who lived on the same floor as him. One by one, the guests walked out of their rooms and began to search for the source of the noise. Then, they saw the big man in the aisle whose clothes were tattered because he used extremis to repair himself, and the impact crater the size of a person behind the big man. After noticing that more and more guests were focusing their eyes on him, the big man suddenly had a plan. The big man's legs suddenly exerted force, and he pounced to the side like a cheetah, temporarily leaving Rog's sight. Then, without hesitation, the big man went directly to the fire alarm bell and broke the glass on the alarm bell with a punch. At the moment when the alarm bell was broken, a harsh alarm sounded throughout the hotel. After doing this, the big man still had no intention of stopping, and he began to actively urge the extremis in his body. In the blink of an eye, his hands turned red, like the red-hot iron that had just been taken out of the stove. The guests who had walked out of their rooms because of the sound of the palm thunder all revealed terrified expressions when they saw this scene. Here, the Battle of New York must be mentioned again. For ordinary people on the Earth, the Battle of New York is not just a battlefield where aliens invaded the Earth, but also a war that made them understand that there are many monsters in the world they live in. Therefore, when these guests saw the big man whose hands had turned red, they immediately realized that this big man was the so-called monster. Although they don't know whether this big man is a good person or a bad person for ordinary people, this makes no difference. It's like ordinary people seeing a gunfight on the street, their first reaction is definitely not to understand who the two sides of the gunfight are, but to immediately avoid or stay away to avoid being involved in unnecessary danger. However, just as these guests planned to return to their rooms or run directly to the safe passage, they were immediately drenched. The hotel's fire protection system was activated. A large amount of water poured down crazily as if it didn't cost money. Of course, it was the big man with red hands who caused the fire protection system to be activated. Using the steel in his hands that can melt steel, the big man successfully made the hotel's fire protection system work. It's common sense that water can conduct electricity. This is what the big man wants to take advantage of. After getting wet, it's easier to be hit by Rog's lightning. But at the same time, it will also cause the lightning to accidentally injure others. For example, Little Pepper, who is in the same room with Rog. And with the spread of the water, it can also effectively dissolve the lightning attack that is enough to seriously injure him. If the lightning only hits him, of course, it can seriously injure him in one move. But if there are others to share the damage, then the threat of the Thunder Palm will naturally decrease a lot. After seeing that Rog didn't immediately attack when he walked out of the door, the corner of the big man's mouth unconsciously raised. The bet was right. This guy doesn't dare to accidentally injure others. However, what the big man didn't expect was that the reason why Rog didn't immediately attack was not because he was worried about accidentally injuring others, but because he was thinking about a somewhat serious problem. Wait a minute, where should I buy a new set of clothes? If you want to fight, just fight. Why do you have to wet people's clothes? After letting out a helpless sigh, Rog turned his gaze back to the large man. For some reason, when Roger raised his head to look at him, the burly man suddenly felt an instinctive sense of danger from his body. Danger, run. The moment this thought appeared in the big man's mind, Rog also appeared in front of him like a ghost. Lightning body blink. Before the weak electric current that wrapped around Rog's body dissipated, his right hand grabbed the big man's neck and lifted him up. Discharger, 1,000,000 volts. The big man who was lifted up by Rog didn't have time to counterattack. A visible electric current directly appeared on his body. Along with the electric current, the big man screamed in extreme pain. Chapter 168. What kind of experience is it to be electrocuted by 1,000,000 volts? Rog has never been electrocuted before, so he doesn't know. But judging from the big man who kept screaming in front of him, it should be a tragic and painful experience. If this big man hadn't been injected with extremis, he wouldn't have to experience this extreme pain now. Because the moment he was electrocuted, he would have completely lost his life. However, extremis, which gave him extraordinary power, also brought him extreme pain at this time. Under the extremely high temperature generated by the electric current, the big man's body began to rapidly scorch. But at the same time, extremis was also constantly repairing his injured body. On one side is destruction and on the other side is rebirth. The two completely different experiences made the burly man feel as if he was jumping between heaven and hell. If he could, the big man would rather have never been injected with extremis than experience the extreme pain at this time. Rog didn't plan to kill the big man immediately. If he wanted to, he could increase the current by dozens or even hundreds of times at any time. First, give the enemy extreme pain that they can't resist, and then ask the enemy for the information he wants. Although this approach seems a bit cruel, it is very effective. However, Rog obviously overestimated the big man in his hand, or rather, overestimated the extremis developed by Maya Hansen. After being abused by an electric current of up to 1,000,000 volts for more than 10 seconds, the extremis in the big man's body also came to the verge of collapse. To be precise, it was on the verge of self-destruction. After discovering the abnormality coming from the big man's body, Rog kicked open the door of the nearest room, and then took out a flying Thor kunai. At the moment when he kicked open the door, Rog saw a panicked young man and woman hiding in the corner. This woman has a pretty good figure. After seeing the young blonde woman with a flustered look on her face and shivering, a very inappropriate idea emerged in Rog's mind. Although thoughts that shouldn't have appeared in his mind, Rog's empty left hand didn't hesitate at all, and he directly threw out the flying Thor kunai in his hand. Boom! The flying Thor kunai pierced through the glass of the room like a bullet out of a barrel and flew into the air outside the hotel. The flying Thor kunai that broke through the window glass did not fall down like an ordinary item, but under Rog's control, it turned around and flew towards the sky. After the flying Thor kunai flew hundreds of meters into the air, he disappeared into the hotel's passage with the big man. Flying Thor 2. Rog grabbed the flying Thor kunai that was still flying towards the high altitude, and then threw the big man on his right hand. And he himself, under the influence of gravity, he began to fall. The big man's big. Big kunai's kunai. The fireball only lasted for a short period of a few tenths of a second before completely dissipating, and the night sky returned to its original appearance again. After dealing with this self-destructing desperation fighter, Rog once again threw out the flying Thor kunai in his hand, and then controlled the flying Thor kunai to fly back to the hotel. When he was about to have a close contact with the ground, he teleported back to the hotel with the flying thunder god. He doesn't know if the big man just now was not completely transformed by extremis, or for some other reason, but Rog always felt that the big man was a little different from the desperation fighter in his impression. Except for his self-healing ability and his body's ability to generate high temperatures, he is very weak in other aspects, so weak that he has hundreds of ways to end the battle in an instant. In his memory, Killian, who was also transformed by extremis, was a fierce man who could tear Tani several sets of Iron Man armors with his bare hands. Furthermore, even though he had endured the self-destruction of Mark 42's prodigal son, he still hadn't lost his life. Compared with Killian, the big man just now was not a little weak. Of course, this may also be because people's physiques are different from each other. Rog once heard that there was once a junior high school student surnamed Lu who fought with more than 20 people with knives for 75 minutes, and then ran for more than 30 kilometers in one breath. Although he didn't know this junior high school student, since a junior high school student can do this, it shows that the physiques between people can't be generalized. Not to mention that there is also a person who can predict the shooting position in extreme anger, avoid 30 rifle bullets without any injuries, and finally disarm with a punch. As for other things like slide shovel killing tiger, gravity kick killing bear, cross breaking bear's arm, back throwing strong man, etc., it seems to be quite common. Times have really changed. Roger tossed these messy thoughts to the back of his mind and returned to the room where Little Pepper and Maya Hansen were staying. He said, "That man has been dealt with, but we'll have to change hotels." Both Little Pepper and Maya Hansen were not surprised by this outcome. If Rog couldn't take care of that man, then it would be a surprise. Although it did not cause much damage to the hotel, the appearance of the man still caused a lot of trouble to the hotel guests. For example, the hotel's fire system was still spraying water wildly. But these were all small problems. With Little Pepper's current status and ability, dealing with this kind of thing was not much more difficult than asking the housekeeper to make breakfast. Dozens of minutes later, Rog and the other two appeared in a famous five-star hotel in Los Angeles. Although Maya Hansen was still an enemy, Little Pepper still booked a room for her alone, not worried that she would run away or do something she shouldn't do. Anyway, Rog was here, and even if there was a problem, Rog would solve it. After witnessing Rog's battle with her own eyes, Little Pepper had more and more trust in him. But at this time, Rog obviously did not care about Maya Hansen. Now, he was using the exclusive service provided by his American Centurion Black Gold card. First, he asked them to get him a set of high-end clothes and matching shoes. Then he asked them to get him an off-road vehicle with excellent performance. In the end, he asked them to arrange for two beautiful blondes to be his guests. This evil capitalist society, the night passed in the blink of an eye. Before Little Pepper and Maya Hansen woke up, Rog left the hotel alone and began the next step of his plan. Of course, before he left a letter for the hotel staff and asked them to hand it to Little Pepper when she woke up. As for Maya Hansen, it was impossible for her to hurt Little Chili Pepper, who was already on guard against her. And just in case, he deliberately summoned the Punisher and asked it to secretly protect Little Pepper. Chapter 169. After leaving the hotel, Rog drove directly to Tani's seaside mansion. He now has the extremist formula, but he still needs a highly intelligent person who can perfect the formula and self-destruct the defects. Since a high IQ is mentioned, it must be Tani. If you have any difficulties, look for Tani. After a night of investigation, the police and firefighters near Tani's mansion have left. Only the staff cleaning up the ruins and a small number of police officers maintaining order are still in the ruins of the mansion. Using the hypnotic ability of Sharingan, Rog easily came to the interior of the mansion and came to the Tani studio at the bottom. The reason why he came back here was because he wanted to find a person here, or a super advanced artificial intelligence. Judging from the degree of destruction, Tani's mansion can be regarded as completely destroyed. Even the ruins are only left with the part connected to the mountain. But in fact, the most important things in Tani's mansion were not damaged in the slightest by Mandolin's attack. For example, the Iron Man armor hanger hidden under the studio. For example, Artificial Intelligence JARVIS. After dispersing the staff who were cleaning up the ruins, Rog said to the air, JARVIS, I know you can hear me, come out. After waiting patiently for a few seconds, he heard a voice coming from the ground. I'm sorry, Mr. Rog, but I can only talk to you in this way now. JARV's voice is as usual, except that it is a little weak because of the distance and the steel gate of the hangar. But this is normal. After all, the only equipment that can make JARVs make a sound are the Iron Man armors in the hangar. It doesn't matter. Give me a way to contact you and Tani at any time, or you can directly hack into my mobile phone. I know you can do this. Before Sky joined the company, Rog did not have the habit of carrying a mobile phone with him, because it was very unsafe and there was a danger of revealing his whereabouts at any time. But ever since the hacker genius Sky joined the team, everything had changed. With the anti-intrusion program specially written by Sky, the security of the mobile phone has improved by more than a little. Yes, sir, please wait a moment. It had to be said that Sky's anti-intrusion program was indeed very good. Even in the face of JARVIS's invasion, this program still persisted tenaciously for more than 3 minutes before it was completely broken through by JARVIS. Mr. Rog, the contact information has been entered into your phone. Number 1 is Mr. Stark's contact information, and number 2 is Mark 42's contact information. You can contact me through Mark 42 at any time. Thanks, Jarvis. After getting the contact information for Tani and JARVIS, Rog went straight back to the off-road vehicle and called Tani. After more than 10 minutes of conversation, they roughly understood the other party's current situation. Tani was now in a small town called Rose Hill in Tennessee. Here he found the first explosion that was suspected to be caused by Mandolin and obtained some information. He knew that all of this was related to AIM Pioneer technology. Of course, Tani didn't forget to tell Rog that he was attacked by 2 extremist fighters and met a pretty good little boy. Rog also briefly told Tani about what happened last night, including the fact that he arranged the Punishers to secretly protect Little Pepper. Finally, he also told Tani about perfecting the extremist equation. Tani didn't refuse Rog's request, but he didn't agree immediately, but said that he would think about it. Rog didn't care too much about this. As long as he didn't refuse directly, with his understanding of Tani, Tani will eventually help him perfect the extremist equation. Before hanging up the phone, Tani also told Rog a piece of news. He is now asking JARVIS to analyze the satellite reception equipment of AIM Pioneer technology, and he will soon be able to locate the specific location where Mandolin released the video last night. Although Rog knew which video Tani was talking about, unfortunately he didn't see the video last night, because at that time he was studying the meaning of life with 2 blondes in the presidential suite. The address where the video was released should be in Miami, Florida. If you are free you can go there now. After directly telling Tani where Mandolin is now, Rog took the initiative to hang up the phone and booked a first-class ticket to Miami for himself. It takes more than 5 hours to fly from Los Angeles to Miami, which is not much different from flying from New York to Los Angeles. But this time Rog hopes that he won't miss anything. Last time he missed the scene where Mandolin attacked Tani's mansion. More than 7 hours later, Rog saw Tani wearing a red children's watch, a black hoodie, and a black backpack behind Mandolin's villa. Your new style is quite unique. Compared to Tani's previous outfit, he now looked particularly down-to-earth and approachable. He didn't have the aura of a playboy or a super-rich man at all. This is also a limited edition. It's my friend's sister's. Tani didn't take Rog's teasing to heart at all and said with a serious face, "Where's your battle suit? You're not planning to use these to attack the villa, are you? The people inside are armed with real guns and live ammunition." Glancing at Tani's equipment, Rog had to admire Tani's courage. "Don't underestimate these things. I made them myself." Tani replied confidently. "You're the boss. You have the final say." Although the equipment on his body was slightly rough, the things made by Tani himself were never bad. "I haven't seen you for a while and you've started wearing contact lenses. Why don't you do a manicure too?" Tani began to fight back. "These are not contact lenses, these are real eyes." This is the attitude that Tani should have, and Rog nodded with relief. "Don't talk nonsense. Do you want to do it or should I?" Tani pointed to the guards in the villa and said, "You're so well prepared. It would be unreasonable if I don't let you do your best. You're the main attacker and I'll assist you." After deciding on the division of labor, Tani didn't want to continue arguing with Rog. He quickly ran to the wall of the villa and climbed over the wall with a completely fluid movement. Iron Man was forced to use his physical body. It's not easy. Roger followed closely behind Tony to prevent Tony from accidentally dying to a bullet that came out of nowhere, as it was his first time fighting with his physical body. Chapter 170. Although Tani's movements are a little rusty, his efficiency is not low at all when it comes to real action. Nail gun, taser, homemade grenade, electric shock gloves, all kinds of gadgets made by Stark himself played a good role, allowing Tani to smoothly enter the interior of the villa without alarming too many guards. I didn't know that you had specially trained. Rog has always kept a distance of about 2 meters from Tani, protecting Tani while observing Tani's fighting skills. Without the Iron Man armor, I am also Iron Man. Tani replied with great confidence. Perhaps it's because he's too confident, or maybe it's because he lacks experience in close combat. Tani didn't find out that the guard who was stunned by him was only stunned for a few seconds. Tani didn't notice the awakening of the guard, but Rog wouldn't make such a low-level mistake like him. Sneer. Just as the guard pulled out the pistol from his waist, a flying Thor kunai flew in front of him like lightning and cut his neck directly. At the moment when he killed the guard with the flying Thor kunai, Rog also used body flicker to come behind the guard and grab the guard who was about to fall forward. You are too careless. It was not until this time that Tani discovered that the guard had woken up. He has more fat in his body and has a higher electrical resistance, so he woke up faster. Although Tani's words sound reasonable, there is only one main meaning, that is, the guard woke up so quickly, not because the electric shock gloves he made are not good enough. It makes sense. Rog did not refute Tani's explanation and silently put down the body in his hand. Except for this little episode that was beyond Tani's expectations, the next action was extremely smooth. Tani and Rog successfully came to Mandolin's exaggerated bedroom. Tani, with a gun in his right hand, carefully came to the bed and then lifted the quilt on the bed. There were indeed 2 people on the bed, but it was not Mandolin as Tani imagined, but 2 girls in sexy underwear. It seems that Rog was not the only one who had a night of sex last night. Looking carefully at the 2 girls who woke up on the bed, Rog felt that the 2 blondes he had last night were more interesting. At this moment, not only were the 2 girls on the bed panicking, but also Tony, who was holding a pistol, was panicking. What's going on? What about the bearded Mandolin? Just when Tani began to wonder if he had come to the wrong room, the sound of water suddenly came from the toilet next to him. Without any hesitation, Tani made a silent gesture to the 2 girls on the bed, then immediately retreated to a corner by the bed. Which one of you is Vanessa? Mandolin, who had just come out of the toilet, did not notice that there were 2 more men in the room. He walked to the table by the bed and asked the 2 girls on the bed. It's me. A girl replied immediately. You know what? Actually, the fortune cookie is not. Who are you? Mandolin wanted to show his humor or talent. As soon as he turned around, he saw Rog standing at the door. It doesn't matter who I am, I think you should pay more attention to him now. After saying that, Rog pointed to Tani, who walked out of the corner. Looking in the direction Rog pointed, Mandolin saw Tani, who was pointing a pistol at him with a puzzled look on his face. Don't move. I won't move. Mandolin raised his hands for the first time. Take whatever you want, these guns are fake because those bastards didn't dare to give me real guns. Mandolin suggested with a sincere face. What? At this time, Tani's intelligent brain was immediately filled with doubts. Then why don't you take these 2 girls away? Mandolin continued to suggest. Enough. You are not Mandolin, where is the real Mandolin? After saying that, Tani angrily pulled the pistol's sleeve, expressing his determination to shoot at any time. Where is he? Where is he? Tani roared angrily at Mandolin, and now he felt like a monkey being teased in a circus. He is here, but he is not here. Under Tony's aggressive questioning, Mandolin began to explain the ins and outs of everything that had happened. My name is Trevor Slatley. After listening to the fake Mandolin, Tani finally figured out the truth of the matter. Just as he was about to turn his head and ask Rog for his opinion, he found that Rog had already left the bedroom. When Tani began to ask about the fake Mandolin, Rog quietly left the bedroom and began to look for the real Mandolin in the villa. An imposter was not worth a trip to Miami in person. From the beginning to the end, his goal was only Killian. While waiting for Tani's arrival, he used chakra to investigate the situation in the villa. As he expected, there was a strong high-energy reaction in the villa, and it was a high-energy reaction from the human body. However, he couldn't tell whether this high-energy reaction came from the Desperation Warrior or Killian. The target with the high-energy reaction showed no signs of leaving the villa, and he also wanted to see if Tani would personally perform a self-taught infiltration operation as he remembered, so he patiently waited for Tani's arrival. Although the development of things was a little different from what he remembered, he still appreciated Tani's only infiltration operation in his life. Regarding this, he was very satisfied, very satisfied. However, he soon experienced the taste of disappointment. When he came to the room with the high-energy reaction, he didn't see Killian as he expected, only a big man he didn't know at all. The big man in a tight camouflage vest and camouflage trousers obviously didn't expect a stranger to come inside the villa. "You continue, don't worry about me, I'm just a passerby." The big man was originally beating a black man who wasn't very strong, but after seeing Rog's arrival, he stopped his violent beating. Before the big man in the tight vest spoke, the black man spoke first. "Rog? You're Rog. You know me?" Rog was very sure that he had never seen this black man before. "I'm Colonel Rhodes, Tawny's friend, the one who fought for the machine." Colonel Rhodes quickly explained. "Oh, it's you." No wonder he felt that Colonel Rhodes was a little familiar from the beginning. It turned out that he was one of Tawny's only friends. Just as Rog was about to rescue Colonel Rhodes, fierce gunshots and explosions suddenly sounded in the villa. Chapter 171. With the sound of gunshots and explosions, the big man in tights who was beating Colonel Rhodes also decisively attacked Rog. The big man in tights didn't know Rog and he didn't care who Rog was. Intruder die. This was the only thought in the mind of the big man in tights. When the big man in tights rushed towards himself like a cheetah, Rog slowly took out the flying Thor kunai. Rog's action of taking out the flying Thor kunai was not fast at all, and even Colonel Rhodes, who was tied to the iron frame, could see it clearly. But for some reason, when the big right palm of the big man in tights was about to grab Rog's neck, the flying Thor kunai stabbed the big man's palm first. Sneer. The flying Thor kunai pierced the big man's right palm without any suspense. How did he do it? His right palm was pierced through, but the first thing that appeared in the big man's mind was not that he was injured, but how did Rog do it? How could I be hit by that kind of slow movement? This is not scientific. It is not scientific at all. Although it was a little unbelievable, the big man in tights had to admit the fact that he was injured. Under normal circumstances, the injured big man in tights should choose to retreat immediately, and then prepare for the second wave of attacks. However, the big man in tights not only did not have any intention of retreating, but he directly raised his left leg and kicked towards Rog fiercely. As long as he is kicked, this guy who came out of nowhere will be seriously injured even if he does not die. The big man in tights is full of confidence in the power of his kick. And with the existence of extremis, he can completely ignore the injury on his right palm. Not to mention that it was just pierced. Even if his entire right palm was cut off, he could still grow it back. He doesn't know if people with super recovery power will more or less have some extreme ideas. This was the case with Dr. Lizard before, and now the same is true for the big man in tights. Moreover, in Rog's memory, there was a man who liked to wear red tights and carry 2 swords on his back. He relied on his immortal body and walked back and forth on the edge of death all day long. Seeing that the man in tights was about to kick his lower abdomen, Rog was still recalling a certain despicable character. Because of his wild thoughts, the man in tights successfully kicked his body with his left leg. Then, it directly passed through his body. There was no tangible feeling. This is fake. The tights man had just reacted when Rog, who was in front of him, turned into a flock of crows and flew in all directions. Sharingan Genjutsu. At the moment when the man in tights attacked him, Rog quietly cast an illusion on him, and at the same time enveloped Colonel Rhodes. From the beginning to the end, the man in tights had only been attacking the illusions he had left behind. As for the injury on the burly man's right palm, of course, it was just an illusion. Using slow to fight fast, using soft to break hard, this is something that can only be done by Tai Chi in the martial arts world. Where he is now is not a martial arts world but the Marvel world, which still follows the scientific principles most of the time. Here, speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness are the true essence of close combat. I hate men who wear tight vests, so, see you in the future. Rog's voice sounded on the right side of the man in tights. Subsequently, the man in tights found that the scene in front of his eyes became upside down and spinning, as if he had been on a roller coaster in his childhood. Before the man in tights understood, he saw his own body, his body without a head, and the light blue sword in Rog's hand that was completely composed of thunder and lightning. Lightning release, thunderbolt sword slash. Using the thunder tachi to instantly cut off the enemy's head. Decapitation in one strike, full marks. When the head of the man in tights fell heavily to the ground, he heard the last words of Rog. This time it's true. As soon as this thought appeared in the mind of the man in tights, he completely lost his life. From the moment the man in tights launched his attack to the moment he completely died, only 2 or 3 seconds passed in total. If the man in tights had been a little more cautious, instead of relying on his extremist to launch an attack recklessly, then he would have been able to live for at least a few more seconds. Although the final outcome will not change in any way, at least his death will look a little better. After quickly defeating the man in tights, Rog put down Colonel Road, who was tied to the iron frame. "Thank you. If you hadn't come, I might have been killed by this guy." Colonel Road wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and thanked him sincerely. "You're welcome." Saving Colonel Road was a matter of convenience, and the main reason was that it didn't take much effort. "Can you contact Tani now? They took my battle suit, we must stop them immediately." Although Colonel Road didn't know what they were going to do with the war machine, he was sure that it was definitely not a good thing. "Tani is outside now, you can talk to him directly." When Rog and Colonel Road found Tani again, Tani was wearing part of the battle suit and fighting fiercely with the guards in the villa. Even though there were only a few parts of the battle suit on his body, Tani still exerted a lot of combat power, and he alone suppressed all the guards who came forward. It seems that he is having a good time. Now that they have seen it, Rog and Colonel Road certainly won't let Tani fight against all the enemies alone. After more than a minute, the villa with continuous gunshots and explosions returned to its previous calm state. After returning to the fake Mandolin's bedroom and torturing the pompous old man again, they got a piece of information related to the vice president. Driving the luxury yacht generously gifted by the fake Mandolin, Rog and the other two left the villa, and Tani also called the vice president at this time. This is what it means to have a high profile. Tony Stark was the only one who could make a call to the vice president so easily. After talking to the vice president, Tani and Colonel Road finally understood why Killian had to take away the war machine. The Trojan horse stratagem, a plan that was born thousands of years ago but is still very effective today. The war machine on Air Force One is that Trojan horse. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not biased against politicians, but if I remember correctly, the vice president's daughter lost her right leg when she was a child. It just so happens that Killian's extremist has the ability to regenerate broken limbs. As soon as Rog finished speaking, the faces of Tani and Colonel Road became a little ugly, and as time passed, it became more and more ugly. Chapter 172. Tani and Colonel Road are not political idiots. If they still can't connect the dots, Rog will seriously doubt their IQ. The vice president and Killian have good reasons to cooperate, and this also explains why Mandolin can launch so many terrorist attacks in the United States. According to the current situation, there are only 3 of us left to save the president. Even the vice president is Killian's partner, which means that they can't get any official help. The president of the United States has been reduced to the point where only 3 people can save him. He doesn't know if this is the misfortune of President Ellis or the honor of Rog and the other 2. Let's not worry about that for now. I'll let Mark 42 go to Air Force One and take a look. After that, Tony controlled the Mark 42 Prodigal to fly toward Air Force One. When Mark 42 set off, Tani and Colonel Road turned to look at Rog at the same time. "Why are you looking at me? I can't fly, I'm a ninja, not Superman." "Are you kidding me? I don't want to go to Air Force One, I'm not an American." The rescue operation of Mark 42 was similar to what Rog expected. Tani didn't find any trace of President Ellis on Air Force One, nor could he prevent the explosion of Air Force One. However, under his control, the Mark 42 Prodigal successfully rescued the 13 government personnel from the crash. Then Mark 42 was hit by a passing truck and fell apart. Although it was only remotely controlled, the sudden impact still made Tani in the cabin involuntarily close his eyes. Fortunately, it was only remotely controlled, otherwise he would be the one who was hit now. Tani just sighed. Colonel Road opened the cabin door and said, "Brother, I want to hear some good news. They are all safe, but I didn't save the president." Tani reported his results honestly. "You can't save the president with a combat suit? Then Rog and I have no chance without a combat suit." Colonel Road couldn't help but grumble, and then he sighed. After hearing Colonel Road's words, Rog, who was lying on the sofa with his eyes closed, opened his eyes. "Wait, what does this have to do with me? I don't have to wear a combat suit. It's just you who is weak, don't drag me in." However, Rog didn't say these words in the end, but turned to look at Tani. "Your remote control system is pretty good, how about installing a set for my Mark III? Mark III doesn't have the corresponding receiving and operating equipment, what do you think?" Tani answered without looking back. "Then you can upgrade the Mark III in my hands." For example, change the energy system, weapon system, and operating system to the Mark 42. A free commission for upgrade. Do you want to think about it? Although Roger would not wear the Mark III in battle, it did not affect his intention to upgrade it. Even if the new is the new model, the old model is the new model is the old model. Then you might as well ask for a set of Mark 42. I don't mind as long as you're willing. Tani is now more and more regretting why he took Mark III as a stake in the battle. It's all because he was too young and fell into Rog's trap. The longer he knows Rog, the more Tani feels that Rog was premeditated to seduce him. Whether it was the appearance of Mark III or the words he said later, it was all to deceive Mark III in his hand. Every time he thinks of this, Tani still has some faint heartache. Mark III fell into the hands of a person who doesn't know how to cherish it at all. According to JARVIS's observations over the years, the set of Mark III in Rog's hand has never sent back a starting signal. This also means that Rog purely regards Mark III as a decoration. One of the proudest works in my life is actually regarded as a decoration. This is simply, forget it, don't think about it, it's easy to get angry if you think too much. Tani glanced at Rog with a slightly angry look, then gave JARVIS the order to execute the robot party, and let JARVIS begin to locate the signal of the war machine. The prototype of the war machine was the Mark II originally built by Tani. Although it was modified later, it was also modified by AIM Pioneer technology. But this didn't affect JARVIS's precise location of the war machine's signal. It didn't take long for JARVIS to locate the location of the war machine, a port in Fort Lauderdale. It was only a few dozen kilometers away from Miami, which was not very far. Not long after nightfall, Rog and the other two sailed from Miami to the port where the war machine was located. The president is now wearing the war machine and hanging above the oil tank. They are going to burn him to death. After moving forward secretly in the port for a while, Colonel Rode was the first to discover President Ellis. A Viking-style funeral. A public execution. Tani immediately guessed Killian's intention. At this time, Tani was not wearing the latest Mark 42 armor. The Mark 42, which was knocked apart by the truck, was still trying to assemble itself. Yes, burned to death by oil. They are surrounded by their guards and we can't sneak in quietly. After observing the surrounding situation, Colonel Rhodes said helplessly, "Have you forgotten that I'm a ninja? Infiltration is my specialty." Although Rog has told them more than once that he is a ninja, they don't know why they always ignore this point. You know, he is the only serious ninja in the world who can use mysterious ninjutsu. Ninja? Sneak in? Colonel Rode and Tani looked at each other tacitly, then shook their heads at the same time. They don't know if other ninjas are good at sneaking, but Rog is definitely not the kind of ninja who is good at sneaking. And in their view, Rog is not a ninja at all. In order to prove my level of sneaking and at the same time to correct your wrong ideas, I need to personally demonstrate what a ninja sneaking method is. As soon as the voice fell, Rog disappeared directly in front of them, leaving only a weak light blue current. In fact, whether Tani agrees or not, he will use his own way to sneak in. Because in this port, he sensed a high-energy reaction signal that was so strong that it can't be ignored. Kyrian, I finally found you. Just as Tani and Colonel Rode were looking for Rog's trace, a huge thunder suddenly sounded and instantly spread throughout the port. Raiton, lightning palm. Of course, it was Rog who made this amazing thunder sound, and in order to make this thunder sound strong enough, he used Raiton, lightning palm to the extreme for the first time. Chapter 173. What is he doing? Is he crazy? Tani and Colonel Rode were used to big scenes, but Rog's operation still made them confused. Didn't he say he was going to sneak in? Didn't he say he was going to hide his whereabouts? What kind of sneak is this? What's the difference between this and knocking on the door? Looking at Rog, who pointed his palm directly at the night sky and continued to release lightning, Tani and Colonel Rode suddenly regretted working with Rog. But they soon discovered the benefits of Rog's amazing operation. There were originally a large number of guards gathered around President Ellis, guarding every corner and passage. But with Rog's grand entrance, the tight defense circle built by these guards had a lot of loopholes. As long as one wasn't deaf or blind, they could see Rog standing on the main road with lightning constantly released from his palm. The guards quickly adjusted their positions and aimed their guns at Rog on the main road. As long as Killian gave the order, the dozens of guards present could instantly turn Rog into a hornet's nest. Tani and Colonel Road didn't speak. They silently looked at each other, then carefully walked toward President Ellis. Killian, don't hide, I know you're here. Come out and play. If you want to control everything behind the scenes, you can't be the real boss. Rog said as he walked, not caring about the guards at all, as if he didn't see the muzzles aimed at him at all. Although his voice wasn't very loud, he was sure that Killian could hear him. Just as he guessed, Killian was watching him through a surveillance screen in a room on the fishing platform. Looking at the completely unfamiliar face on the screen, Killian showed a puzzled expression. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? How did he know my plan? Although Killian didn't know Rog, he knew that Rog wasn't the kind of existence that could be dismissed at will. Rog's thunder palm just released left a very deep impression in his heart, and it also made him think of someone not to be trifled with. No, he couldn't be the masked man. The masked man had always been active in New York and I had never provoked him. There weren't many people who could release lightning. Including the fact that he knew Tony Stark, the masked man was the only one who could do it. However, Killian still didn't think that Rog was the masked man in the Avengers. There was no three-tomo mask, no Kusanagi sword that released lightning, and no unreasonably large round fan. Most importantly, his eyes were completely different from the masked man's. Although Killian had no intention of provoking the masked man, it didn't mean that he would ignore his investigation. After pondering for a few minutes, Killian finally left the room and decided to meet Rog face to face. Just as Rog had said, he had always been hiding behind the scenes and had no way of becoming the real boss. Moreover, he also needed to prove to his subordinates his strength as the boss. After leaving the room, Killian came to a high-altitude corridor in front of Rog and looked down at Rog. Who are you? Killian didn't signal the guards to shoot, nor did he let the other desperados attack Rog. Instead, he asked for Rog's name. I'll know when you win. Rog didn't intend to reveal his identity. Although he didn't wear a mask to hide his identity, it didn't mean that he would tell Killian his name. In that case, go to hell. After saying that, Killian raised his right hand and waved it gently. After seeing his gesture, the guards who had already pointed their guns at Rog didn't hesitate and directly pulled the trigger. Bang 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 bang, fierce gunshots sounded in an instant, and bullets flew toward Rog like a storm. Except for a few monsters with abnormal physiques, not many people could withstand so many bullets with their flesh. Rog's thunder palm was amazing, but no matter how you looked at it, his body didn't look like the kind of monster body that could withstand bullets. Rog indeed couldn't resist the bullet attack, but the problem was that he didn't have to resist these bullets at all. Because these bullets had no possibility of hitting him at all. He didn't directly use the body flicker technique or fly Thor to avoid these bullets as he was good at in the past. Instead, he stayed in place and let the bullets fly toward him. Lightning release, thundercoat protection. At the moment when the guards fired, Rog also used the only lightning release defensive ninjutsu he had developed. Thundercoat protection was a defensive ninjutsu that he developed based on the electric net defense of the Electric Man in New York Square and the principle of ninjutsu. Lightning release, thundercoat protection. Whether it was a long-range attack or a close-range attack, thundercoat protection can play an amazing effect. Hundreds of bullets came near Rog one after another, and then were blocked by the invisible thundercoat. The metal bullets instantly disintegrated and then completely dissipated. When he wasn't facing an attack, the lightning cloak was like an invisible barrier. Only at the moment of the attack would the invisible lightning cloak ripple, revealing its existence. Gunshots kept ringing, but no bullet could penetrate the defense of Thundercoat and cause damage to Rog. Roger stood on the main road like a target, allowing the guards to attack him. At the same time, he used his actions to silently mock them for their weakness. Even if I stand here motionless, you can't hurt me at all. You are just ants. It didn't take long for the sound of magazines being emptied, and the gunshots weakened and finally disappeared completely. Killian, it seems that I have overestimated you. I thought that you would be more domineering after being transformed by extremists. I didn't expect that after so many years, you are no different from the coward standing on the roof 13 years ago. Rog mocked Killian presumptuously. He wanted Killian to be angry, the angrier the better. The angrier Killian is, the more fun he can have. After hearing Rog mention the roof 13 years ago, Killian's face finally changed, became gloomy, and his skin began to turn slightly red. That day was the day that changed his life, and it was also his most humiliating day. Killian didn't speak, but silently took off his suit jacket, and then jumped down from the high-altitude aisle and landed directly on the main road. Although he has been transformed by extremists, he will still be injured if he jumps from this height. However, he doesn't care about this. Extremis will repair the injuries on his body, and all he needs to bear is the pain. And he has long been accustomed to pain. Chapter 174. Killian, whose body seemed to be flowing with magma, walked step by step to Rog. Then he stopped about 5 meters away from him. Killian didn't say anything harsh, his face was gloomy, and his eyes were fixed on Rog. Looking at Killian, who had become completely serious, Rog also became eager to try. Since he studied Electric Man Max from the inside out and developed several brand new lightning release ninjutsu, he has been waiting for an enemy who can let him use these lightning release ninjutsu to his heart's content. There is no such enemy in the safe city of New York, so after knowing that Tani was officially fighting with Mandolin, he immediately rushed to Los Angeles. For him, Killian is the prey he has been longing for a long time. As for Extremis, it's just a side gain during the hunting process. Just as Killian and Roger were confronting each other, gunshots rang out from the harbor again. Looking in the direction of the gunshots, Rog saw Tani and Colonel Road being suppressed by the guards behind a small container. The situation of the two of them looked bad, but Rog had no intention of rescuing them. In other words, they didn't need Rog's rescue. Before departure, Tani gave J.A.R.V.I.S. an order for a robot party. And now, Tani's party partners finally arrived at the party. Not long after the gunshots sounded, more than 30 light spots appeared in the night sky and quickly flew to the port. These light spots quickly came over the port, showing their true appearance and forming a standard circle. Mark 8 to Mark 41. Tani's Mark series Iron Man suits built after the battle in New York, except for Mark 42 who has not arrived yet, all of them appeared. Tani's robot party has officially begun. Did you see that? Your plan had no chance of success from the very beginning. You underestimated Tani Stark. Rog said to Killian unhurriedly. As long as I can keep all of you here, I'll be the one laughing in the end. As soon as he finished speaking, Killian burst forth with a speed far beyond that of an ordinary person. He quickly arrived in front of Rog and struck his lava-like right hand directly at Rog's heart. Bang! Rog didn't dodge, nor did he use the thunder cloak to protect himself. Instead, he raised his right hand wrapped in chakra and grabbed Killian's right fist. After the transformation of Extremis, Killian's physical fitness has reached an amazing level. Especially when Extremis is stimulated, his magma-like right fist can instantly penetrate a steel plate. Even the Iron Man armor carefully built by Tani can't stop the high temperature of his right fist that is enough to melt steel. However, the high temperature that could instantly melt steel into molten iron did not cause any damage to Rog's right palm. The light blue chakra wrapped in Rog's right hand not only gives him stronger strength, but also isolates the high temperature emitted by Killian's right fist. You want to burn through my chakra with high temperature? Try again in your next life. Seeing that the situation was not good, Killian just wanted to withdraw his right fist, but Rog suddenly turned his palm into a claw and firmly grabbed Killian's fist. You want to leave? It's not that easy. Lightning release, lightning palm. With a thought, bolts of lightning appeared on Rog's right hand. Before Killian could do anything, more than a dozen lightning bolts as thick as a wrist shot out wildly from the palm of Rog's right hand. Boom. A violent thunder that was no weaker than the previous one sounded, and Killian, who was red all over, was sent flying like a bullet out of the barrel. The lightning released by lightning palm instantly broke Killian's right arm, and at the same time, left a few fist-sized holes in his magma-like body. Before Killian, who was sent flying by lightning palm, landed on the ground, his lost right arm and the hole in his body began to quickly repair with the help of Extremis. These injuries can't defeat me with Extremis. The final winner must be me. Just as these thoughts emerged in Killian's mind, he saw Rog's right hand again. Lightning body flicker. Rog instantly appeared in front of Killian. How can he be so fast? Killian was destined not to get the answer he wanted, and now he was not qualified to consider these questions. Rog's right hand, which had just released lightning palm, grabbed Killian's neck. Lightning discharger, 30 million volts. Hundreds of electric currents visible to the naked eye instantly enveloped Rog and Killian in his hand, and the blazing electric light made the entire port as bright as day. The pain was indescribable. Every inch of his skin was in excruciating pain. Destruction and rebirth emerged at the same time in Killian's body. When dealing with Killian's men, 1 million volts was enough to decide the outcome. But in the face of Killian, the most highly modified Extremis fighter, 30 million volts of terrifying current still couldn't kill him with a single blow. The gap in strength between his men and his boss was vividly displayed. What surprised Rog even more was that even in such a painful situation, Killian still gritted his teeth and did not let out a scream for mercy. Although they were in different positions, Killian's terrifying endurance still made Rog involuntarily admire him. It's nothing to be cruel to others. Being cruel to yourself, that's a real ruthless person. As for Killian, he was a cruel wolf who was even more powerful than vicious. If their identities were reversed, Rog admitted that he couldn't do this. Even when intense pain filled his entire mind, Killian still did not give up his plan to fight back, and attacked Rog directly with his remaining left hand. Even if I die, I will bite off a piece of your flesh. Killian's determination is indeed very moving, but the gap is the gap. Lightning evasion, lightning cloak protection. Killian's swinging left hand did not hit Rog as expected, but was blocked by Rog's invisible lightning cloak. In front of Killian's left hand, a ripple of more than 10 centimeters appeared. This ripple seemed to be only a few millimeters thick, but it was like a natural barrier, blocking Killian's left fist. The 30 million volts of current from the discharger continued, and so did Killian's pain. His right arm that could only be healed in a few seconds was not completely healed due to the constant damage from the current. From the looks of it, Killian had no chance of winning. But he still did not give up. He suddenly opened his mouth and a flame gushed out from his mouth, attacking Rog who was right in front of him. Unlike his left fist, this sudden flame successfully broke through the invisible lightning cloak and arrived in front of Rog. However, this flame did not hit Rog's body in the end. The light blue chakra enveloped Rog's entire body, completely isolating him from the flame. Killian finally saw the full appearance of lightning evasion, lightning cloak protection through his own efforts. Chapter 175. If this ninjutsu could only defend against physical attacks such as bullets and fists, then this ninjutsu would not have become the only lightning-release defensive ninjutsu developed by Rog. Rog is an adult, and for an adult, there is no choice but to take them all. Whether it is a physical attack or an energy attack, the lightning cloak can defend all of them. The outer layer of the lightning cloak, which is invisible to the naked eye, is mainly responsible for defending against physical attacks. Inside the lightning cloak, there is a layer of chakra armor that specializes in defending against energy attacks. The lightning cloak plus the chakra armor is the real lightning release, lightning cloak. Lightning palm, lightning discharger, lightning sword draw, and lightning cloak. This is the scientific research result obtained by Rog after carefully studying Electric Man Max. The flames spewed out by Killian only lasted for a few seconds before dissipating. Before the flames completely dissipated, Killian already knew that his flame attack still did not cause any damage to Rog. The gap is too big. Killian, who was constantly eroded by a strong electric current, showed a helpless wry smile. All the counterattacks were declared a failure. Killian couldn't help but think of the night 13 years ago again, the night when everyone was celebrating while he tasted the pain alone on the roof. However, even in this desperate situation, Killian still has no intention of giving up. He still has one last trick. An attack that can only be used once in a lifetime. Self-explosion. Pushing extremist to the extreme, overheating himself, thereby creating a terrifying self-explosion with a temperature as high as thousands of degrees. This kind of overload self-explosion was originally a flaw that extremists had not been completely perfected. But at this time, it became Killian's last trump card. Although he will definitely die after self-explosion. But now he obviously won't care about this. Instead of being electrocuted alive, it is better to take the initiative to self-destruct. At least in this way he can die with more dignity. Rog noticed that Killian wanted to self-destruct. Just when he was considering whether to continue to increase the power of lightning discharger, or use lightning sword draw with his left hand to directly cut off Killian's head, Killian, who was grabbed by the neck by him, was suddenly bounced out by a powerful force. This sudden attack was not directed at Rog, but directly at Killian in his hand. However, what really surprised him was not the sudden appearance of this attack, but the power attribute of this attack. Is this gravity? Rog has never fought with an enemy who can control gravity, so he is not very sure whether this attack comes from gravity or not. Killian was sent flying by this attack that came out of nowhere. The terrifying impact made his already battered body even worse. Although this method of saving him is a bit speechless, he had to admit that this attack allowed him to escape, as he had a chance to do it again as well. After Killian was sent flying, Rog didn't choose to pursue him immediately. Instead, he began to search around. If he guessed correctly, he might be able to find a delicate gadget here. Sure enough, just 3 or 4 meters away from him, there is a circular instrument made of metal, with the overall shape of 2 movable rings intertwined together. In the middle of this instrument, which is only 2 or 3 centimeters in diameter, there is a small piece of black substance that looks like oil. At first sight of this instrument, Rog recognized its origin. The small gravitational proton instrument was built by Ian Queen's Queen Group. The black substance inside is the gravitational proton that can control gravity. 9-headed Hydra. Interesting. Since the last time he mentioned that he wanted the first item of 084, the obelisk, Hydra has never contacted him or appeared in front of him again. As a result, after disappearing for several months, Hydra emerged and stood on the opposite side of him. The ambitious Hydra will not let go of any opportunity to strengthen themselves, and Killian's extremis perfectly meets their requirements. While Rog was looking for the small gravitational proton instrument, Killian did not waste this rare opportunity. He dragged his body, which had not fully recovered, and walked towards the laboratory on the fishing platform without looking back. Killian didn't know who saved him, but he didn't have time to think about it now. When Rog silently put away the small gravitational proton instrument in his hand, Killian had already run to the door of the laboratory and then disappeared from his sight. Loeb did not care about Killian. No matter what, Killian would not be able to escape from him tonight. He has firmly remembered the energy characteristics of Killian's body. Unless Killian can cast a portal like Kamartaj Sorcerer, he won't have any chance to leave. Although Hydra's people hid well enough and were careful enough when launching attacks, their caution was destined to be meaningless. Chakra perception. Rog instantly confirmed the location of everyone on the dock. Excluding Killian's men and Colonel Tani Road, the rest are naturally Hydra's people. As for whether these life energy signals will be ordinary people on the dock, this is a question that doesn't need to be considered at all. No ordinary person will stay on the dock at this time, unless he has some ulterior motives. 3 people in a team, a total of 9 people. After determining the number and location of Hydra, Rog suddenly had a small plan. When dealing with Electric Man, he deliberately exchanged 2 ninjutsu for Symbol Seal and King Kong Seal from the system. But because of Electric Man's disappointment, he didn't use King Kong Seal. However, at this time he suddenly had the idea of using King Kong Seal. There are a total of 9 people, so 9 chains are enough. With a thought, 9 golden chakra chains emerged from Rog's back, flying behind him like 9 tails. The number 9 has a different meaning for ninja. 9 symbolizes cheating and strength. When 9 thick chakra chains emerged from Rog's back, the 9 Hydra warriors hiding in the dark couldn't help but feel shocked, and a sense of danger immediately surged in their hearts. Before they set off, they knew that the people they were going to face this time were extremely dangerous and extremely ferocious. Once they were found, their chances of survival were infinitely close to 0. But even so, they still took the mission and came here without hesitation. Chapter 176. When it comes to brainwashing their subordinates, Hydra is definitely one of the best in the world. Even S.H.I.E.L.D., which has the name of a justice organization, is far inferior to Hydra in this regard. The last time Rog encountered such a loyal enemy was when his hand was still alive. Unfortunately, his hand was still gone in the end, and it was because of him. He didn't know which one was more thorough in brainwashing, the ninja of the hand or the Hydra agents. An idea suddenly popped up in Rog's mind as he manipulated the 9 tail-like chakra chains behind him. Although he didn't know where his thoughts were at this time, the 9 golden chakra chains attacked 9 enemies in 3 different directions like lightning. Judging from the strength of the 9 Hydra agents, using the King Kong blockade to deal with them would be a waste of chakra. However, Rog didn't care about this at all. I have a lot of chakra, I don't care, I'm happy to waste it. Second last amount of chakra is enough for him to waste it unscrupulously. Although squandering is shameful, it can bring pleasure. In the face of the lightning-fast chakra chains, the 9 Hydra agents did not have any intention of retreating. At the moment they accepted the task, they already knew their fate very clearly. Once they are discovered, they will die. They may not be able to change their fate of death, but they can make their deaths more meaningful. Since they have already been exposed, there is naturally no need to hide. The 9 Hydra agents picked up the weapons in their hands at the same time, and then decisively pulled the trigger. 6 automatic rifles took the lead in firing bullets, and the metal bullets flew towards the incoming chakra chains. Then, 3 rocket launchers that looked like rocket launchers but were more technologically advanced than rocket launchers also launched an attack towards Roger. 3 small gravitational proton instruments, driven by the silver-white barrels, flew towards Rog at a speed faster than the speed of sound. These Hydra agents witnessed the scene of Rog using Raijin to block the bullets and Killian's attack, but at this time they still aimed their most powerful weapons at Rog himself, not the incoming chakra chains. The golden chakra chains are not easy to deal with at first glance, and attacking these chakra chains will not change the outcome of their death. Therefore, instead of attacking the chakra chains, it is better to put hope on the small gravitational proton instruments and hope that these small but powerful gadgets can injure or directly kill Rog. As long as Rog is injured or killed, these chakra chains will naturally disappear. The way these Hydra agents responded was not wrong, but they underestimated Rog and overestimated the power of the small gravitational proton instruments. It took less than a second for these small gravitational proton instruments to fly in front of Rog, and then they were blocked by the invisible Raijin. The strong electric current quickly disintegrated the shape of the instrument, and 3 gorgeous ripples visible to the naked eye appeared on the left and right sides of Rog. While the Raijin disintegrated and blocked these gravitational proton instruments, these instruments also released a powerful impact force that was enough to knock out a heavy truck. With Rog's location as the center, the ground within 10 meters in diameter cracked instantly, spiderweb-like cracks spread around, and the shattered stones were further crushed under the influence of chaotic gravity. The gravitational proton not only strengthens the gravity in Rog's location, but also forms a chaotic and dangerous terrifying gravitational field. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been crushed into a disgusting mass of meat at the moment the gravitational field was formed. Then, under the influence of chaotic gravity, it changed from a solid mass of meat to a torn and flying strip of meat. In terms of the nature of energy, gravity is definitely a high-end energy attribute. But high-end does not mean absolute strength. Quality is important, but quality without quantity is weak. With the 3 groups of gravitational proton that are not even as big as Rog's little finger, they want to break through his carefully developed Raijin. Don't be kidding. If the Raijin was so easy to break through, Rog would jump from the port now and swim back to New York. The terrifying and dangerous gravitational field only lasted for less than 10 seconds before dissipating on its own, leaving nothing but gravel on the ground. Although Roger didn't move from his spot, the 9 chakra chains were still carrying out his orders faithfully. The 9 Hydra agents didn't even wait for the gravitational field to disappear before their chests or necks were broken by the chakra chains. Hydra didn't expect the 9 agents to cause much damage to Rog at first. The only reason for their presence here may be to provide some help to Killian at the right time. If Hydra really intended to cooperate with Killian to eliminate Rog here, the people they sent would never be the only 9 ordinary agents who have not been strengthened. These 9 agents can bully ordinary people, but in front of Rog they are still too weak, so weak that Rog is not even willing to take out his kunai. But anyway, they still paid the price of their lives so that Killian was qualified to live a little longer. Tani and Colonel Rhodes are still fighting against Killian's men. Although there are only 2 of them, they are now the ones who have the upper hand. Tani is even fighting 1 against 3 by constantly changing his Iron Man armor. He is fighting against 3 desperados at the same time, and he is also fighting very well. As for the unlucky President Ellis, he is still hanging high above the oil tank at this time. Colonel Rog is quickly approaching President Ellis with the help of his Iron Man armor, trying to rescue him and retrieve his war machine. After roughly observing the situation of Tani and Colonel Rhodes, Rog looked at the laboratory on the fishing platform. After dealing with Killian, he can go home. Will be a good Christmas Eve. Just as Rog was about to take out the flying Thor and fly directly to the laboratory, Killian, who had disappeared for a while, took the initiative to come out of the laboratory. It's still the same appearance as before. Except for the fact that his shirt has completely disappeared, Killian looks no different from before. If the change in size doesn't count. Killian's body was originally about the same size as Rog, but now he is half a meter taller than Rog. In addition to the skyrocketing height, his body has also become a lot thicker, and his muscular right arm is even thicker than Rog's thigh. If his skin could turn green, then he would look like a small Hulk injected with extremis. Chapter 177. Second Enhancement? That's interesting. Although Rog didn't witness what Killian did in the laboratory, it wasn't difficult to guess from his current appearance. The brief fight just now, or rather the one-sided abuse, made Killian fully aware of the strength gap between the two. If he wants to defeat Rog, he must use some extraordinary means. As one of the co-developers of Extremis, Killian knows very well what the consequences of injecting an overdose of Extremis will be. But now he obviously doesn't care about this. I'm not even afraid of self-destruction, what else can I be afraid of? And things have developed to the present, and he has nothing to lose. Either he defeats Rog and leaves here alive, or he loses and says goodbye to the world. Although our positions are different, I have to say that you are a respectable opponent. The injection of extremis is definitely not an easy thing to do. Looking at the people who self-destructed because they couldn't bear extremis, you can know that injecting this thing is not easy at all. When the body has reached its limit, he continued to perform a second injection and resisted it. Kieran's willpower alone was enough for Rog to respect him. Respecting the opponent is respecting yourself. If we could have met earlier, maybe we could have become friends. There was a piercing pain in his body all the time, but Killian still said to Rog as if nothing had happened. Yeah, but unfortunately there are not so many ifs in this world. As soon as his voice fell, Rog entered the lightning release chakra mode. The second round officially begins now. Looking at Rog, who was wrapped in a light blue chakra coat and was surrounded by white lightning, Killian did not hesitate and ran directly towards him. The second injection of extremis not only greatly changed Killian's figure, but also gave him strength, speed and energy far beyond his previous strength. The energy intensity in his body is dozens of times stronger than before, and his overall strength has undergone a qualitative change. If he was like a small fire made of branches before, then now he is a towering tree drenched in oil and burning crazily. At his current burning speed, even if Rog ignores him completely, he will directly exhaust all his energy and vitality in more than half an hour, and finally die of exhaustion. This half an hour is the peak state of Killian's life. Facing Killian, who was running wildly, Rog did not retreat, nor did he dodge, but he also met him head-on. Sometimes a man's battle is a simple and rough one. Boom. Roger's right fist wrapped in chakra and Killian's right fist fiercely collided with each other. A strong sonic boom burst out, and a terrifying impact force spread out in all directions like a hurricane. At the same time of the sonic boom, the ground where Rog and Killian stood also instantly cracked, and the ground within 10 meters in diameter was instantly covered by spiderweb-like cracks. After the two fists collided, Rog and Killian withdrew their fists almost at the same time. Then they launched a second wave of attacks towards each other. On the surface, Killian is a cultured person, and he has not experienced any decent battles. But his close combat ability is not weak at all, and his first move is a pure American boxing. Jab, swing, hook, heavy punch, 1-2 combo. Killian is like a boxing champion in the ring, crazily attacking Rog, and the strength and speed of his punches are dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than those boxing champions. Compared to Killian's pure boxing attacks, Rog's attacks are more unconstrained. Rog does not specialize in a particular school of fighting techniques. In other words, he knows a little bit of the moves of any school of fighting. His 3-tomo Sharingan is not only able to release illusions. The punches hit the flesh, the dull and intense hitting sounds, and the sonic booms are like a symphony. The momentum caused by the battle between Rog and Killian made Tani and others, who were originally fighting fiercely, involuntarily stop fighting, and one by one, they all focused their attention on them. There are no mysterious ninjutsu, no fancy energy attacks. There are only pure extreme fist and foot attacks here, and only simple and crude male fighting. Neither Rog nor Killian paid attention to the uninvited spectators, and all their attention was now focused on the enemy in front of them who was only less than a meter away from them. If you give me a hook, I will give you an elbow. If you give me a burst punch, I will give you a heavy punch. Killian has a twice-strengthened extremis and a taller and sturdier body, and Rog also has a sage body and lightning release chakra mode. They are like the gladiators in the Colosseum of ancient Rome, staging bloody and primitive wild battles. Looking at Killian and Rog's attacks that produce sonic booms every time, Tani and the others present swallowed unconsciously. Are these two guys really still human? Although in terms of appearance, they all have typical Earthling characteristics. But what they are doing now is not like Earthlings in general. Have you ever seen an Earthling who can make a sonic boom with a punch? Have you ever seen an Earthling whose punch is so fast that the radar of the Iron Man armor can't catch it? The two below were the ones. Although he has entered the lightning release chakra mode, Rog has to admit that Killian's fists are still quite painful. However, compared with Rog, who has the chakra coat and lightning protection, Killian, who has an advantage in size, is the one who is more miserable. Extremis has greatly strengthened his body, but no matter how it is strengthened, his body is still an ordinary body, not a monster-like body like Hulk's. Every punch that Rog makes will leave a lot of injuries on his body. Either his bones are broken or his body is directly sunken. If it weren't for the amazing resilience of extremis, Killian would have been beaten into a pulp by Rog. Although he didn't take any advantage in the melee fighting, Killian still had no intention of retreating. Once he pulls away, he who lacks long-range attacks will only be more miserable than he is now. Killian knows this very well, and so does Rog. So at this time, Rog is enjoying the pleasure of fighting brought by Killian to the fullest. Sure enough, men sometimes still need to release their passion on other men. This can let men find the wild passion of another male creature. Under Rog's frenzied attacks, Killian's form changed once again. Chapter 178. Previously, Killian only looked like he had lava flowing in his body, but now he looked like he had lava flowing in his body. Now, Killian was like the legendary lava giant. His skin had turned dark red like lava. Killian's form changed once again, and he emitted a shockingly high temperature. The surrounding temperature also increased by more than 10 degrees Celsius, and it showed signs of continuing to rise. Killian was now using his actions to prove what it meant to burn one's life. Rog also showed his respect for Killian's willingness to risk his life. Monstrous Strength Fist. Ever since he obtained the Monstrous Strength Fist ability, he hadn't used it in a real battle. The enemies he had encountered before either didn't really want to play this kind of close combat with his fists, or were too weak to be worth him using this move. Bang! Rog's right fist was like a heavy artillery shell fired from a main battle tank, and it fiercely hit Killian's chest. In an instant, a fist-sized dent appeared in Killian's chest, which looked like it was made of magma. His ribs also broke without any suspense. This monstrous strength fist, which could shatter a boulder, didn't send Killian flying, but it made him silently retreat a few steps. Your punch isn't strong enough. After taking Rog's monstrous strength fist head-on, Killian's face showed a crazy smile, and he said to Rog with a ferocious expression. As soon as his voice fell, Killian rushed in front of Rog, and his lava-like right fist directly hit Rog's head. Even if he was in lightning chakra mode, even if he had the body of an immortal. If Killian's fist hit his head, even if Rog wasn't seriously injured, he would have a severe concussion. Of course, the premise was that Killian's right fist could hit Rog's head. Rog didn't prepare to block Killian's fist, nor did he intend to retreat. Just as Killian's fist, which was no weaker than the monstrous strength fist, was about to hit his head, he tilted his head to the left at this critical moment. Killian's right fist brushed his right ear with a distance of less than a centimeter, and then Killian heard his sudden question. Do you know what 1000-7 equals? Of course, Killian knew what 1000-7 equals. However, he didn't intend to answer Rog at all, but took this as a provocation from Rog. Just as Killian was about to cut off Rog's head with his right hand, he suddenly found that his right hand was firmly grasped by Rog. Rog's hands grabbed Killian's right forearm and upper arm respectively, and then his hands suddenly bent. Gotcha. The crisp sound of an elbow joint fracture sounded. To an ordinary person, having his right arm broken was probably an unbearable pain. But to Killian, this pain was nothing. What's more, extremists can repair. However, Killian still misjudged Rog's idea. Breaking Killian's arm was not Rog's real purpose. Just as Extremis was trying to repair the broken right arm, Rog's right hand that grabbed Killian's forearm suddenly exerted force and directly removed Killian's forearm. What is 1000-7 equals? Rog pulled out Killian's forearm directly like pulling out the weeds in the garden, and continued to ask. Killian now has no idea what Rog is going to do. With Killian's silence, Rog's left hand that grabbed his upper arm suddenly exerted force and pulled his upper arm directly off. 1000-7. What the hell is this guy going to do? This kind of injury is nothing to me. Even if his right forearm and upper arm were torn off one after another, Killian still didn't take it to heart. However, after seeing Rog's gaze like a wolf looking at a rabbit, Killian suddenly remembered something. Is he going to? Impossible, this is not his fighting style. Feeling that something was wrong, Killian instinctively wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Rog grabbed his left hand at some point. This guy is really going to do this. Killian didn't have time to withdraw his left hand, and the forearm of his left hand was pulled off by Rog violently. 1000-7. Killian still didn't answer, so the upper arm of his left hand was also torn off. He's going to tear Killian apart. After seeing Rog tear off Killian's hands with great decisiveness, Tawny and Colonel Road had this amazing idea in their minds at the same time. Rog didn't intend to do this. However, when Killian waved his magma right fist towards him, he suddenly thought of an anime character. His left hand was also torn off, and Killian finally confirmed Rog's idea. Although it was a pity to lose his left hand, it also gave Killian a chance to retreat. Without any hesitation, Killian's legs suddenly exerted force, and his whole body directly jumped back. If possible, Killian didn't want to distance himself from Rog. But now he could only do this. The lost hands could indeed grow back, but it took time, even if it was only a short time of 2 or 3 seconds. If he continued to stay in front of Rog, he would be a sandbag without any power to fight back. Rog didn't seem to see Killian's retreat, letting him run for dozens of meters. Just as Killian breathed a sigh of relief, 4 shining golden chakra chains hit his shoulders and legs, firmly nailing him to the ground. King Kong blockade. Since he planned to imitate Kinmu, he might as well imitate more. Rog is not a ghoul like Kinmu, nor does he have Kinmu's scales, but this does not prevent him from imitating Kinmu. 4 King Kong blockade wrapped in golden light, and then covered with a layer of chakra coat, can also create tail-like scales. Controlling chakra chains to pull himself behind Killian, Rog once again asked the question that gave Killian a headache. 1000-7. This guy is too much. Killian's hands have been completely restored, but he was nailed to the ground by chakra chains and had no possibility of attacking Rog. Self-destruct. I would rather self-destruct than answer your idiotic question. Killian quickly made a decision. Then his heart suddenly sank. Can't self-destruct? Having reached this point, Rog certainly won't let Killian self-destruct so easily. At the moment when chakra chains hit Killian, he forced his chakra into Killian's body and used chakra to forcibly suppress Extremis. 1000-7. 993. 986. 979. 972. Chapter 179. Training is a skill. No matter how strong a person's will is, as long as you find the method, you can train them to become what you want. Of course, Killian's willpower is needless to say. He is a ruthless person of the new generation. Originally, Rog had planned to use the valuable training experience he had gained from the Abomination and the Electric Man in front of Killian. Unexpectedly, Killian decisively chose to obey after discovering that his last trump card had self-destructed and disappeared. Although he wasn't sure if Killian really had a mental breakdown or chose to obey strategically, it didn't affect Rog's good mood at this time. After a round of intense hand-to-hand combat, they completed a rather satisfactory reenactment of the famous scene. What's there to be dissatisfied with on this Christmas Eve? As for President Ellis, who was hanging above the oil tank. What does that have to do with me? I'm not an American. 923, 916, 909, 902. Killian was still playing the 1000-7 game. At the same time, his face was tightly pressed against the ground, and he closed his eyes as if he had accepted his fate. Speaking of which, Killian was a rather unlucky guy. If he didn't appear on New Year's Eve, when Tani wanted to do something with Maya Hansen, he might not have become like this. Even so, Rog didn't feel sorry for Killian. You made the choice yourself, and of course you have to bear the consequences yourself. The world of adults was just that simple. Lightning release. Thunderbolt sword draw without any hesitation. A tachi made of lightning appeared in Rog's right hand. Then lightning flashed across Killian's neck. This time it's really over. Killian's head rolled forward a few times and magma-like blood flowed out. Not long after, Killian's body completely cooled down. Putting away the thunder tachi in his hand and the chakra chain on his back, Rog summoned more than a dozen shadow clones. Without any instructions, these shadow clones quickly rushed to the laboratory on the fishing platform and began to pack the equipment and materials in the laboratory. These equipment and materials were used by Dr. Lizard when transforming the Abomination. He didn't know if it was his own illusion, but Rog felt that Dr. Lizard was becoming more and more like Orochimaru. No, if Dr. Lizard is Orochimaru, then he who provided him with experimental materials is Konoha's Pot King Danzo. Using the Flying Thor, the shadow clones quickly emptied Killian's laboratory and then removed their existence one by one. After dealing with Killian, Rog did not intervene in other battles. Instead, he gave the stage to Tani and Colonel Road. 10 minutes later, the harbor finally calmed down. After paying more than a dozen sets of Iron Man armors, Tani successfully eliminated all the desperados and most of the guards in the port. Colonel Road also successfully rescued President Ellis, retrieved his war machine, and sent the president to a safe place. After the battle, Tani didn't leave the port immediately. Instead, he flew in front of Rog wearing a suit that he couldn't recognize. "Didn't you want me to help you perfect the formula for Extremis? I can help you." But you have to promise that you won't build a super soldier like Killian. After witnessing the battle between Rog and Killian, Tani helplessly found that if Rog hadn't come this time, he really wouldn't have been able to do anything to Killian. He doesn't like to owe others anything, so he plans to pay back Rog's favor immediately. I can't guarantee this. You also know very well that the biggest role of Extremis is to build super soldiers, and the powerful self-repair ability is just a collateral product. All I can guarantee is that I won't abuse Extremis. Rog wants Extremis, of course, to build a super soldier, otherwise what does he want this for? He has even decided on the candidate for the transformation. At this time, Abomination, who was far away in New York, suddenly sneezed, and then looked around suspiciously. Forget it, give me the formula, and I'll ask J.A.R.V.I.S. to send it to you after I perfect it. After thinking about it seriously for a few minutes, Tani chose to believe in Rog. If Rog really wants to build a super soldier, he will build it with or without Extremis. What are you going to do next? Glancing at the paper handed over by Rog, Tani hesitated for a few seconds before reaching out and taking it. Then, like Rog, he sat on the top beam of the fishing platform and looked down at the distant sea. Continue to work, continue to practice, and then wait for the final battle of fate. Tani rolled his eyes at Rog's strange statement, and then looked into the distance without saying a word. Deal with the shrapnel in your chest. You can't sleep well if you keep thinking about the past. Okay, I'll go first. Remember to send me the formula after you perfect it. After that, Rog left the fishing platform with the Flying Thunder God and returned directly to New York. J.A.R.V.I.S. Remember to clean up the battlefield. I don't want to face a second Obadiah. After instructing J.A.R.V.I.S., Tani put on the helmet of his battle suit and flew directly to Los Angeles. How can I spend Christmas Eve alone? Time flew by and another week passed unknowingly, and it was a new year. The Mandolin terrorist attack finally came to an end with the arrest of Mandolin and the vice president. AIM Pioneer technology was also directly incorporated by the U.S. government in the name of threatening national security. However, what the U.S. government incorporated was just an empty shell, and all the assets and research results of AIM Pioneer technology were mysteriously missing, and their whereabouts were unknown. Colonel Rhodes received a commendation from the president and a medal from the president. The U.S. military originally wanted to take this opportunity to repair the cold relationship with Stark Industries, but there was no doubt that it was directly rejected by Tani. Stark Industries is no longer the military enterprise it used to be. Clean energy, artificial intelligence, advanced machinery, and other fields are Stark Industries' current main business. A few days after Christmas, Tani sent him the Extremis formula that Rog needed, and at the same time arranged for himself to have the shrapnel removed from his chest. In the new year, everyone started their new lives and everything was developing in a good direction. Of course, this does not include Abomination, who has been transformed by Extremis. With Abomination's physique, there is no problem in surviving the transformation of Extremis. What's more, this is the formula that Tani has perfected, and even if it fails, there will be no self-destruction. When Rog told Abomination that he didn't have to cooperate with Dr. Lizard's research for the time being, Abomination thought that he had received a long-lost New Year's gift. But he soon found that his idea was a little too naive. Don't hide, it will grow back anyway, there is nothing to be afraid of. Come back here. If you run away again, I'll let the wooden puppet communicate with you. Chapter 180. Since Abomination received the Extremis transformation without sequelae, Rog and Dr. Connors have been in a better mood day by day. Rog finally has a living ninjutsu test target and sandbag with some resistance. Dr. Connors can finally do some experiments on Abomination that he didn't dare to do before. Just as Rog said at the beginning, it will grow anyway, there is nothing to be afraid of. The happiness lasted for more than half a month, and Rog left Dr. Connors' lab with Punisher and Abomination. After resting for so long, it's time to repay the small gift Hydra gave him at the dock. In the past half a month, Rog seems to have been playing happily with Abomination every day. But in fact, he has been asking Sky to collect information about Hydra. He even asked Sky to invade the system of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s headquarters. If Rog really wants to tear into Hydra, there is actually a very simple way. That is to release the news that Alexander Pierce, John Garrett, Grandwater, and Brock Rum are all Hydra members. But he didn't do that. Although doing so can hurt Hydra greatly, it will also lead to a desperate and crazy counterattack from Hydra. If he was alone, he certainly wouldn't need to worry about this. But he is not alone now, and he needs to think about the people around him a little. Now is not the time to completely tear into Hydra, just teach them a lesson, and then they will settle the accounts together. And these guys won't be able to jump around for long. According to the information collected by Sky, there are more than a dozen large and small suspected Hydra strongholds in New York. Rog selected the 3 largest strongholds from among them, and then arranged one for Punisher and Abomination. First pull out Hydra's nails in New York, and then play with them slowly. One person captures a stronghold and it's a Hydra stronghold. This seems crazy, but it's not difficult for Rog and the other 2. Punisher is the body of the Edo Tensei, and as long as he doesn't encounter an attack that just restrains him, he is basically immortal. Abomination originally had good resilience, and with Extremis he is a veritable battlefield meat grinder. As for Rog, he hopes that Hydra's stronghold can provide him with some unexpected surprises. Although both of you are unlikely to die in battle, I still have to remind you. Hydra is different from the Yakuza members you bullied before. They may have a lot of strange things. Don't lose Konoha's face, you know that? Especially you, Bronski, don't think about dying on purpose. If you really dare to do this, I will make you like Frank. You won't even be able to taste the taste of the Happy Meal in the future. Frank the Punisher did not have to worry too much. He was a professional and this was something he was best at. He mainly hates Abomination and he doesn't know if it's because he's his tooth. His already unstable mental state has become even more unstable, and he doesn't have the qualities that a professional soldier should have. Before he turned into an Abomination, he was a 1 in 1,000 ace warrior, a top-notch soldier who did not lack experience and strength. I will be careful. This is Frank's answer. I want double the meal in the future. This is Abomination Bronski. After explaining to the 2 Punishers, Rog took the lead and left with the Flying Thunder God. The stronghold he was going to was in Queens, and he happened to have a flying Thorjutsu near that stronghold. When Rog's figure disappeared, Punisher and Abomination also rushed to their respective targets. Hydra, Konoha's revenge team is here, Tremble. After arriving at the location marked by Sky, Rog did not launch an attack immediately, but first used chakra perception to sense the surrounding situation. There was no special energy, and all energy indicators were within the normal range. The number of people seems to be more than expected, but it doesn't matter, it's nothing more than a matter of cutting his throat a few more times. After determining the surrounding situation, Rog used lightning chakra flicker to the gate of the old factory. Stop, this is private property. As soon as Rog walked to the gate of the factory, 2 armed guards came over and looked at him with great vigilance. Who are you? What are you doing here? One of the guards shouted and opened the safety on the rifle. My name is Rog and I'm here to retaliate against Hydra. When they heard the word Hydra, the 2 guards did not hesitate to pull the trigger, and the bullets flew at Rog like lightning. Bang 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 bang, the gunshots lasted less than a second and stopped abruptly. Vigilance is good but the strength is a bit weak. Until now the 2 guards still didn't know what had happened. The only thing they could feel was the sharp pain from their hearts and their increasingly blurred vision. At the moment when they were about to lose their lives, they found that Rog, who was standing in front of them, had turned into a group of crows and flew away. Sharingan Genjutsu. From beginning to end, what the 2 guards saw was only Rog's Genjutsu. When they shot at the illusion, Rog pierced their hearts with kunai and easily killed them. Although the gunshot only lasted for less than a second, it still served as a warning. Rog didn't care about this. For him, whether the Hydra agents inside were prepared or not, it would not affect his actions in any way. The front and back doors of the factory, various passages and entrances were immediately guarded by heavily armed Hydra agents. At the same time, 3 modified soldiers with mechanical prosthetics came out of the innermost laboratory of the warehouse. Left arm, both arms, left arm and right leg. The mechanical prosthetics of these 3 modified soldiers are even more different, but judging from the design style they should all come from the same manufacturer. In particular, there was a device that looked like a centipede on their spine, which was perfectly attached to their spines. Hydra has never given up on the creation of super soldiers. These 3 soldiers with mechanical prosthetics are their latest research results, Death Warriors. With the latest single combat prosthetics, the combat effectiveness of the Death Warriors is no weaker than that of the Despair Warriors. In terms of recovery ability, the Death Warriors are far inferior to the Despair Warriors. But in terms of lethality, 3 Despair Warriors are not as good as 1 Death Warrior. When the 3 Death Warriors came to the gate of the factory with cold expressions like icebergs, Rog just pushed open the gate of the factory from the outside and walked in casually. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.